Hello beautiful people, and welcome to your invitation to come and play the Infinite game to co-create a growing diversity of regenerative realities. So it's a lot. We're going to unpack all of that and what it means throughout this very long map, the longest map I've made, and I promise I'm going to make a lot shorter maps in the future. However, a few invitations and suggestions and clarifications before we dive in today. The first invitation is to go and find some beautiful place, whether that's your backyard garden, a nearby forest, just anywhere where you can go and put your bare feet in the soil, connect with our earth. Because it's going to help increase your consciousness, increase your ability to understand what I'm trying to share in this game, but also see where there might be any flaws and room for improvement and ways that we can improve this game, because it is our game. And that's the point of an infinite game, is it's a game that's constantly evolving to best meet our needs. So at no point when we explain how the game is currently designed are we saying this is the best design. We're saying this is how it's currently designed, and we would love for you to be critically thinking about this game and saying, hey, this isn't best serving myself or humanity or the future children on this planet or life on this planet. We can improve this game. So I would very selfishly love for you to be in your highest state so that you can best understand how this game could be improved to best serve us. Okay, first clarification is, what do I mean by game? Because I keep saying that. So sometimes when I say game, I feel like it conjures up a different image in everyone's head, so I wanted to clarify that. When I say game, I mean that it's not just something whimsical and not serious. Games are incredibly serious. I'll give you a couple examples of games that I'll talk to a little bit more, but just a brief understanding of these types of games. One game I call the Empire game. The second game I call the Monopoly game. So we're all very familiar with these games because we're all born into these games. So the Empire game, we've been playing this game as humans since, well before ancient Egypt. It has very similar characteristics. It has a ruling class, an elite class, a middle class sometimes, and a poor class, a lower class, and slaves. So that's a big part of this game, is it has those classes. Now, within the elite and ruling class, they typically select a very small number of people, sometimes even one, to make decisions for everybody else. So back in the days, we called these pharaohs and Caesars and kings, and today we call them politicians and presidents and whatever. So we give them different names, essentially the same role. And what's most absurd about this game is the person who's playing this role of making a lot of decisions for a large number of people don't have the time and space to even consider the issues. Politicians today are much more concerned about the next election cycle and, what favors they're going to take for whom, etc., than actually deeply understanding the issues to make prophetic decisions that are best going to influence the life on our planet. And I believe this is by design. And this was true all the way back in the Pharaoh days where, Pharaoh was way too busy with celebrations and ceremonies, and so was Caesar, etc., to actually make wise decisions. Okay, and now we have the Monopoly game. The Monopoly game in very short form, and it's a game where the more wealth you have, the more wealth you're able to acquire. So it creates this feedback loop with the more money and resources and power and land and people and companies and profit I have, the more land and resources, blah, 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 I'm able to get. Such that after a short period of time, a small number of people are going to own all of the wealth. And that's exactly what we see today, where a handful of people own 50% of the world's wealth, and it's only increasing incredibly rapidly. So this is the main characteristic of the Monopoly game, is it tends to concentrate power into a small number of people's hands. Now, a similar characteristic with both of these games, which we're trying to change in our current game, is that they are both using very arcane and difficult to understand and opaque language and rule sets so that the most people don't even freaking understand how the games work. And I think this is by design, because if people did understand how corrupt these games were, we wouldn't keep playing them, right? So I think by design they were obfuscated, how these games actually operate. And that's what we're trying to not repeat. So that's why this video is so long. We're going to get into all the details of how this game works, because it's so important for us to actually understand how the games we're playing in operate, so that they aren't being allowed to be corrupt without us, agreeing to that corruption, right? And the final piece I want to share here is the future isn't about one game to rule them all. That's what the Empire and Monopoly game was all about. Because in order to continually amass wealth, you need more and more people to be playing that game. So you needed to continually expand and conquer new peoples, etc. Which is why the Empire and Monopoly games became the dominant games, because their games were all about competition and conquest and expansion. Such that now they're the dominant games on the globe. The new games are all about diversity, and that's what regeneration is all about. That's what you see here. I've planted, hundreds of different types of plants and seeds in this beautiful forest, and that's what makes it so more lush and alive and vibrant, and I just freaking love it. So, that's what the new games are about. The new games aren't about one game to rule them all. They're about a growing diversity of games, which is what we talk about, a growing diversity of regenerative realities, which are what these games are all about. So in summary, games can be fun. They should be fun. Because in the last piece here that I'll bring in is why you keep calling them games, is because when we're playing, when we're at a state of play, we're in a higher state of creativity and awareness. So this is important. It's how children learn best when they're playing. And it's how we can transition into new civilizations best, is if we're playing, if it's fun, if they're designed to be fun, because why not? Why aren't we designing the games to be fun? So, the games are fun, but they're incredibly serious, they're incredibly important, because they talk to the foundation by which we live our lives, how we go about meeting our needs, how we go about coordinating with others to meet our needs, and how we experience life on this planet through these games. Now, of course, everyone also has the final game where they can exit and play homesteader and, just try to, live off the land and take care of just their family. That's also a game, right? So, anyway, these are what I call games. So I just wanted to clarify, games are really important. They're very serious. They're also super fun. I believe all of this is just for fun. And okay. My last invitation for you all is to sit up straight, take a nice, huge, deep breath, and to really ground ourselves as we dive into this super long map. So I love you all. I'm just so excited that we're at this point. I mean, it's taken so many years just to get to the point where we can actually invite you all to come play the game. So this is a huge moment for me. And I'm just so looking forward to the future and the realities we're going to be creating together, and just what life can look like once we step into a growing diversity of regenerative games. Because I think they're going to be so much more inspiring than the Monopoly and Empire games have been. So, I love you all, and without further ado, let's go. Now, before I dive into today's map, I want to quickly touch on who I am and why am I making these videos, and who are these videos for. So just a little brief context here. If you already know all of this stuff, feel free to skip to the chapters that are relevant to you. And all the videos are made that way, where they're made in chapters with the subheaders. Go through, find the parts that are most effective and relevant for you to know right now, and feel free to skip ahead. All right, real quick, who am I? My name is Reiki. Whenever I talk about myself in my actual self, which is all my relations. So I'm currently married to Cece, my beautiful life partner, and together we have a baby called Riv, who is no longer a baby, and he's been taking me through the first year and a half of parenthood and fatherhood, and wow, it's a journey, and it's what's really at the heart of why I'm here in this game. I am here in this game to create a world that these future children deserve, to say the least. And the world that these children will need to be able to actually be the humans they need to be in order to address these global challenges that are coming right now. Like, we need a generation of just super empowered and healthy and vibrant and thriving humans to take on this challenge. And how do we do this? We need to create the conditions for them to thrive. And that's my point entirely in this game is, how do we create a game where myself, our family, and a bunch of other families in relationship with the bioregion and the lands that we're all sharing and we're a part of. So on a bioregional level, that is the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink. It is who we are. We are our bioregion, very literally and figuratively. So when we think about ourselves, my long-winded way of answering who I am part of the Katua bioregion. So that's what we're going to get into on this journey. And who this map is for other people who are saying, yeah, I'm tired of the Empire and Monopoly games that we were born into. They're not serving me anymore. It's just, it's not the life we want to live. Like, I'm not spending time with my family. Like, this is the big thing that just gets me, is how much time do we spend with customers, clients, colleagues, computer screens, and all of these things that they don't bring us love and joy. They're not there for that. You know, how weird would it be most of the time for you to tell your boss or colleagues or customers or clients that you love them, that you're thinking about them, that you deeply care about them? If that's not totally normal, then what game are we playing? Are we designing a game where we spend most of our time away from those that we love the most, that bring us the most joy, that we feel like is the reason we're here? Creating something that likely isn't bringing us joy or anyone else. It's just creating a product for market where people were engineered into being addicted to that product, so now they need it, blah, blah, blah. So it's a game that's not really meeting our needs, to say the least. So that's, who this series is for and who all these maps are for and why I'm making them is, how do we create these new games? What do they look like? What do we need to think about? How could we coordinate to meet all of our needs? What's some ways of thinking about our needs? What are our needs? So it's a journey into what is the foundation for how we can create different types of games for us to experience this reality together with. And maybe one of those games is just you and your family all alone in a forest homestead like you see in the background playing with nobody else, That's a game. It's a very solo game. It's a single player way of playing the game. But a lot of the game is multiplayer. So it's coming together with other humans to create little micro economies where together we can meet all of each other's needs. And if we can do that, then we can do it in whatever way we want to. We don't have to do it in a prescribed way, that the Empire Monopoly games, try to have us believe. So that's ultimately what this is about. For anyone who's feeling like, yep, the old world isn't serving me anymore, the game of 9-to-5 grind, away from my family, like I'm killing myself, like how many times do we hear each other say that, if that game is no longer serving you, this journey is designed for you. So a lot of the quests, too, are all going to be designed around healing. The same healing journeys that so many of the people in this movement have gone on. That's what I'm really just bringing together to share, is our learnings that we've gone on already, like how we can heal and enter into a new game. Change our stories about how the reality should work and how it works into the stories of how it really could work and how it can work and the different ways that reality can actually be experienced. So that's ultimately why I'm here. I'm here because I got to a point where my family and I were like, hey, do we want to bring new life into this world? We said no. We weren't happy with the direction humanity was going in. We didn't need to think about money in order to meet our needs. So we're very fortunate. And, part of my gratitude in giving back with that fortunate, space was after we gallivanted and saw the world and, fell in love with nature. Then it was like, okay, there's so many waterfalls that we can see in a lifetime. There's so many lakes we can lie next to. We have to do something to help heal this, situation. So that's what I started dedicating my time to, making maps and being part of this renaissance and helping, so many different groups. And trying to help weave the movement together. So that's ultimately what these maps are for, is to help us see each other. To be like, oh, okay, that organ exists over there. That group is already doing that thing. That village exists. Oh my gosh, I thought I needed to create that village, but there's already a group doing that. Cool, I'm going to go join them, Create these synchronicities so that we can experience these new worlds today, not, some ethereal distance in the future, which it always seems to be for so many. It's like we know something new is there, but we just haven't taken that step yet. We haven't stepped up from the Monopoly game and stopped rolling the dice, and we haven't stepped away in order to step into a new game. Because in order to do that, we need a lot of structure, because we need to make sure our needs are being met. That's a real thing. A lot of people aren't in the privilege of being able to step away from the old game into new ones unless they know their needs are going to get met. And in order for that to happen, we need to make sure we're coordinating. That's ultimately why this game is all about the tools and technology that are about coordinating and organizing us. That's really what is at the foundation here. Because how can we make sure all our needs are being met? We need to just coordinate as effectively as the old games, and then we make them obsolete. So, in summary, my name is Reiki. I am here to heal myself. Myself involves my family, the land that I live on, which is the Kato bioregion, all of the non-human forms of beautiful, epic, glorious life that lives here still.
I'm here to heal as one with all that. And I know in order to do that, we need to create games where all of me and my neighbors and everyone else in this region who wants to play new games can play new games together and meet all of our needs and step out into a new reality. And then in this new reality, I want to raise my son in it. He has been asking for it. He's been coming to my dreams and sharing this vision with me. Like, this is what he needs in order to fully develop as the human that he is. This is what I need in order to develop as the human that I am. So that is why I'm here, is to heal, and to heal together with all of you, and to go on a beautiful, epic journey where we create new realities and we just have a whole lot of freaking fun and turn life into this glorious game and create the most beautiful paradises we can, because we can, as long as we believe we can, and then we organize effectively to make it happen. So that's to summarize why these maps are so detailed and so complex, is it because it's not just saying the wild, beautiful ideas of the heart with love-based cultures and, creating civilizations that are actually about love instead of fear and greed and guilt, but civilizations that are actually about love, right? We know in our hearts this is what we need to create. Our gut intuitively feels all the risks, to get there. So sometimes we doubt that it could ever happen because we know how big of a challenge it's going to be. And then our brains, so often come in and say it's not possible, it can't happen, and come in with all of that fear and doubt. However, we can bring all of these systems into alignment. And if we do, this is the process, I think, personally, I believe it's getting into alignment with our full selves. And then from that position, we can create new realities. And if we do that together, then there's nothing stopping us. Anything is our potential. But we need to coordinate effectively, right? So that's ultimately what these games are about. It's about bringing all of us together so that we can effectively coordinate the creation of these new realities. And it'll be so much fun. I can't imagine anything else I'd ever freaking do. I think, the last thing I'll leave you with, because this is just my belief, I believe, my spirit, my higher self, the person who I am that's well beyond this physical body, wanted to come here at this time with so many others of you to play this epic game to redesign civilization against all odds. It's going to be climate collapse, social breakdown, our food systems are poisoning us, everything is against us. Okay, the most epic scenario we can imagine. But against all those odds, we're still going to come together and birth this extraordinary, ridiculous, beautiful reality. What a freaking epic time to be here, right? And if you feel this way too, then come play this game. And it's not a simple game. A big part of playing this game is dealing with all of our traumas. And traumas are those stories that aren't serving us anymore. So they are going to come up. They're going to come up all the time. It seems like this movement and whatever it is, that is what happens. Everyone who comes into this is just trauma factory. And it's truly, I think, the process of healing. We're coming here and all these things are being released. And it's our opportunity to say, okay, these are the stories that aren't serving us. So we can let those stories go and not carry them with us into the new games. So truly, when you step into this ecosystem, I just want to let you know, because it happens to so many, that there's probably a good chance that a lot of crap is going to come up. But I believe that's part of the game. I could be wrong. It's just what I'm noticing right now, and maybe we can create games where that's a lot more gentle or more intentional, which is another big part of the game we're going to get into later, and then I'll wrap all of this up, are those rites of passage. So this is an intentional technology that cultures were employing for forever, since we have any knowledge of, where we understood the process of consciously evolving ourselves through these structures we call the rite of passage. So it's typically a process where during it you kind of felt stripped of everything you were, everything you thought you once were, and you kind of lose that sense of identity. And it puts you into this liminal space between who you were and who you could be. And then from that space, you get to dive in and say, who am I really at this time? Because at any moment, we're swapping in and out cells and manifesting new realities. Every moment is a completely new moment than the last. So every moment is an opportunity for us to radically change who we are. So that's what that rite of passage journey is to really give us that opportunity to fundamentally shift who we are when we step into these new games. And that would be my invitation for all of you. And also, the quest series I'll be putting together that I'm excited about is that collective rite of passage that we can go on. to let go of the selves that we were when we were playing Monopoly. Okay, I was the hat, I was the car, or whatever, token you were when you were playing that game. We hold so much identity to that. That token has those properties and that cash and blah, blah, blah. We have all of this idea around who we were in that old game. But this process is then putting those pieces on the ground, putting them back in that old box, stepping away and playing fundamentally different games where those old ideas and concepts don't matter anymore. When you're playing tag outside with your friends, the fact that you're the hat in Monopoly is no longer relevant, So that's the foundation that we're playing at here, is fundamentally different games about how we experience reality. So rather than, again, giving it as a constant, we're born into capitalism, this is just the way things are, we get to say, no, we're born onto this infinite planet. How do we want to experience the time we're spending here? With the people, the family, the friends, and the tribe, and the flora and the fauna, and the real life, the real things, real relationships, real communities, real gatherings, and that's probably the only highest good I see of all this technology I'll get into, is my personal belief with all of this, is it's a bridge. And just like any bridge, once you cross it, if you have no need to go back, the bridge becomes useless. It's really freaking important to help you get across that chasm, right? You need a bridge to do it. But then after you've crossed it, if you just want to stay on the other side forever, then it doesn't matter. That bridge is no longer relevant. And that's what I look at this, a lot of the technology, like our phones and the internet and all this stuff that's helping us connect globally with our communities. I see a point where we're in community, we're actually living with physical people, physically outside, and we're spending so much time outside connecting with real people, with the real land, real plants around us, plucking fruit from real trees, etc. And we're having these real relationships that I think suddenly we'll just find that real life is so much better than staring at the Black Mirror. So I know whilst this whole game is played through the Black Mirror, I get that. I really want to bring home the point that it is a bridge. This technology is helping us connect with each other, coordinate our tools, connect with capitalism and those old systems. So we use tokens that have monetary value so that we can, transfer properties and actually own assets and all that stuff. So it's a bridge that helps us connect with the old game. But the new games can be completely beyond that. It's the other side. And that's really what's fascinating for me and what excites me about all of this, is we can create games that are going beyond the concept of ownership, if you will. Not every group has to do that. Other ones can hyper do that and say it's, libertarian realities and, those types of utopias. So the reality is every unique human is going to have a different concept of utopia. And that's where utopia is a broken concept, is that there isn't one utopia. Utopia is a diversity and a growing diversity that's best representing who we are at any moment, which is always changing. So we need systems that are adaptable. And that is what the infinite game is, and that's what all these tools are designed for, is to help us play coordination games that can constantly evolve in a way that's directed and guided by all of us. So just democracy, if you will, but democracy for the base level of reality. And then the freedom that if one game's not playing, working for you, you don't want to play that game anymore, then you can step away and play a new game. And then once we have that fundamental freedom where we can step in and out of games, now games can't be totalitarian anymore. They can't go into authoritarian censorship, surveillance states and all that stuff, because people actually have the freedom to step out of those old games. And this is the only way to prevent those totalitarian tactics from happening, is to have alternatives. So people actually have the freedom to say no to authoritarianism, to say no to the next world war that they're trying to drive us into, or whatever it is. Okay, so that's why I'm here. That's what these videos are for. And if you will really align with all of this, awesome. So there's going to be a lot that we're going to unpack in this series, so enjoy the ride. And again, last reminder to jump ahead to any of the chapters that you feel are most relevant to you. So don't feel like you need to watch all of the series all the way through. Jump to the parts that are most relevant to you. Okay. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to an infinite game. Or more appropriately, a growing diversity of infinite games to redesign how we create reality together. So I'm going to help make sense of what I just said. My name is Reiki Corden. I'm a map maker at Seeds, which we've been out serving the regenerative renaissance, which is essentially this movement in time where humanity is waking up to the realization that we are Earth and we need to heal as an entire organism. And how do we create different types of games to help coordinate us to do that? And why do we call them games? Well, to help simplify the idea of a game, I'm going to talk about some finite games. And some finite games humanity's been playing is empires. We have countless examples of empires failing over and over throughout all of history. And they generally don't last very long. So empires are a finite game. And you know that because you can play the empire game. You can get a group of humans, actually play this game, and it doesn't take very long until there's one winner. And the rest of the people have been, conquered and turned into the empire. So humanity's playing a bunch of different versions of this game since, well before Egypt. We've really played out the empire game. And in recent history, a couple centuries now, we've been playing this other game that I like to call Monopoly. And fun fact, Monopoly was actually designed by a woman who built what was called the Landowners game. And essentially, there's a couple different ways to play this game. One of them was Monopoly, which ended in one person winning the game and owning all of the land and everyone else being homeless. And the other version of Monopoly is a game that ended when everyone had developed their property, they were all thriving, and everyone had an equal share. Well, maybe not equal, but everyone had a share of the board and they were meeting all of their needs in a better way than when the game got started. And it was a very simple way of saying, Monopoly is a finite game. This game ends with one person being the winner and everyone else being the losers. And you can see how Monopoly turns out. The Simpsons did an epic thing on this, and it's hilarious because it's so true.
Why don't we play Monopoly?
Which version? We've got Star Wars Monopoly, Rasta Monopoly, Gallipolopoly, Edna Krabopoly.
Let's stick to original Monopoly. The game is crazy enough as it is.
You're a little light here, Dad.
I'm good for the rest, I am.
Well, I'd like to trust you, Homer, but you've been in jail 3 times.
They told me it would be like this on the outside.
Bart, you're cheating!
Lisa, it was probably an accident.
Oh, sure. You take his side just because he bought you that house on St. James Place. Who else is going to take care of her? Dad?
Why, you little...
Stop fighting!
Mom, that's not how you pry them apart.
I've been prying them apart.
Another case of Monopoly-related violence, Chief.
How do those Parker brothers sleep at night?
You can get a group of people who would generally otherwise love each other and be family. I've only played Monopoly with friends and family of people I deeply care about. And the game always ends with people's feelings being hurt, generally a fight, maybe the board being flipped. There's very rarely a happy ending where at the end of Monopoly, people are like, oh, wow, that was great. Generally, it's like, what the heck? Why did we even play this game? This game's stupid. Let's go outside and play tag, And that's essentially our opportunity with humanity today, is we've been playing out these finite games over and over, and now we're coming once again to the end of the game. And then what happens when you end a game? After Grandma's won Monopoly for the 100th time, do we just keep going around in circles, going around Go, paying Grandma more and more rent? No, we say, good job, Grandma, epic game, way to win, here's your crown, we're going to name a park after you. But we're going to go play new games now, because this game's over and it's time to play new games. So that's what we're here to do, is create new games. And maybe that's a beautiful way of summarizing the regenerative renaissance, is it's a massive movement that's well beyond just Seeds. I want to clarify that. Seeds is here to serve this really beautiful, global, incredible movement that's out designing new games for how we might heal ourselves, regenerate our planet, and fundamentally rethink from first principles, like, what are our needs? How do we go about meeting them? Maybe the Monopoly Empire game isn't the best way to meet our needs. Maybe there's other ways. And, Martin Luther King's been saying this for forever, is those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. And I say Martin Luther King's been saying it forever because this has been said in a number of iterations all throughout history ever since the Empire game got started. And here's the challenge, though, is those who drop out of Empire tend to do it without organizing very well. You know, some typical Western examples are kind of like the Amish. You know, they dropped out, but they just kind of stayed secluded. They didn't really coordinate and organize on a massive scale, and they were just like, hey, we're dropping out of the Empire game. You know, eco-villages do this, intentional communities, hippies, you know, communes all across the globe in a bunch of different varieties, or people, you know, exiting the Empire Monopoly version and just doing homesteading or something, which is freaking awesome. That's fantastic. However, warfare keeps happening. The Empire games are pushing us into World War III right now. You know, the Monopoly game is getting played out where land rents across the globe right now are getting driven up because a small number of people are buying up a ton of housing and owning it all. And it's the same story of how Monopoly ends with, you know, small number of people owning up all of the land. So the Monopoly game is also being played right now, which is making it very hard for people to drop out of the Empire Monopoly game. So now there's a monopoly on our reality, which is the antithesis of free market principles, right? The free market is all about freedom and people having the fundamental freedom to choose things. But if you can't choose the basic game that you're playing, then we don't get very much choice at all. If from the moment we're born, we're stuck playing a game of Monopoly with grandma over and over, countlessly passing go and paying rent, is that freedom? You know, if we get to choose between paying rent at Boardwalk or Park Place, you know, that's just the illusion of freedom. And that's what our current games are offering us. Is the Empire Monopoly game is all about the illusion of freedom without actually giving any sort of real freedom. So that's why the Infinite game is so much more compelling. It's stepping out of these finite games and stepping out of the, you know, the victim perpetrator mentality too. So maybe grandma did, you know, win all the property and owns it all. But, you know, the typical cliche of don't hate the player, hate the game. You know, do we hate grandma? Do we need to go to war with grandma? Is grandma the enemy? Like, you know, maybe not. You know, maybe from our perspective of grandma sucking up rents from all of us all the time, like seems evil. So we, you know, want to hate the landlord. So, you know, grandma doesn't want to keep playing Monopoly either, you know. And what we're finding out is those with all the money, they're not happy either. They're just as depressed, dealing with just as many issues. People are tired of playing the old game. And now it's the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, etc., of the people who really conceived of these games that are running them. And I don't think they're as, you know, happy about the game anymore. You know, typically children don't really want to do what their parents did. So I think we have a beautiful opportunity with civilization right now to say, let's get rid of this idea of it's the 99% versus the 1%, and it's truly humanity versus the games we were all born into. The Empire Monopoly game duo thing that we're playing right now doesn't work. So that's truly what this series is all about, is diving into creating a growing diversity of these infinite games. Okay, to do what? And the main thing that we're trying to do with Seeds as a movement and how we're wanting to show up to the Renaissance is our way of designing infinite games is really around, you know, we have a constitution for this that the citizens put together and put a ton of time in over many years that, like, it's the much more definitive version of what Seeds is up to. However, my summary of it is we're here to regenerate ourselves, heal ourselves, and ourselves consist of the bioregions of our Earth. So we can think of bioregions as kind of like organs of this whole Earth system that we are all living on. And we can think of ourselves as kind of like the microorganisms of Earth. Just like our bodies have microorganisms that live inside each one of our organs, each, you know, our stomach. Turns out we're actually outnumbered non-human cells to human cells 20 to 1. There's 14 quadrillion, right? Non-human cells, as in microbiology, the fungi, the bacteria, all these little organisms that have been on Earth for way longer than us, you know, comprise us, just like we comprise the Earth. So when we start thinking of it in this broader context, that we're not isolated cells, we're not individuals fighting for self-interest. You know, what does that look like in our body? If the body's cells were looking at themselves as individuals fighting for self-interest, we call that cancer. And we die of cancer. Cancer kills the host. So it's very interesting that the cancers we're getting in a lot of people's bodies, I think, is a reflection of the cancer of society being represented by these games that we were born into. So when we heal the game that's causing the cancer, then we're healing ourselves. But then ourselves are our bioregions. We breathe the air of our bioregion. We drink the water of our bioregion. We eat the food, ideally, of our bioregion. Like, once we start seeing this healing concept, we realize we are our bioregions. And a bioregion is kind of, you can think of it as like the area that contains the watershed and the forests, and type in bioregions, you can explore more. We're also going to get way more into depth on bioregions throughout the more upcoming episodes, so stay tuned. But on a bioregional scale, we can make our water drinkable again. On a bioregional scale, we can heal the water system so that we're not flooding out all our cities. We keep seeing this all over the place. On a bioregional scale, we can literally bring back rain. Like, we can plant the forests and the trees call in and create the rain. We can fix our hydrological cycles. We can localize our food systems and eat from our bioregion again and get all of our nourishment from the soil that is in our bioregion, that's interacting with all the pathogens and the bacteria and the biology and all of the life, the viruses, etc., of that bioregion, so that we are healthier. So when we think in terms of bioregions, that's kind of what Seeds is really interested in creating games for. So in summary, Seeds is an infinite game, a game that's not designed to ever end, a game designed to continually improve on how the game is working for us, to create a growing diversity of bioregional games, so there's a whole bunch of different flavors and more diversity of how we coordinate to create reality, that are all designed to help us heal ourselves, to regenerate ourselves, which includes the bioregions of our planet. So let's try to have a lot of fun doing this. And so I'm going to keep flowing. This next slide is just a real quick summary. And if you want to dive deeper into all of this, this is what the next series of videos is going to be about. It's a much longer deep dive into what the regenerative renaissance is, who are the different players, how you can get involved, what does it actually mean to redesign games, and thinking about the games and all of that fun stuff. And there's a big overview video that you can also see on the channel. That one's literally coming out next, so it's probably already there by the time you watch this. But either way, I'm going to give a super quick summary here right now. And it goes that the current paradigms in games we're experiencing now, or you see on the left side, what we're trying to do is provide this bridge. So this is a bridge to the emerging regenerative paradigm. So there's some traits you see on the right that we're trying to move towards, versus the traits you see on the left, that is the common stories we're experiencing today. And why I say that you get unconditional trauma in the current paradigm is under the Empire Monopoly game, it is far too common for parents of newborn children, I'm speaking from experience right now, to not have the time, just not have it, to be able to spend with those new humans. And we're learning right now through all sorts of science and what hunter-gatherer tribes did and still do today, that it's critically important for both parents to be fully present and attentive with new humans being brought into this world. Otherwise, you create a bunch of trauma. Maybe not consciously, we're not trying to, so that's why I call it unconditional. It's not a conscious thought, which is the problem with some of these games, is they have us unconsciously cause ourselves harm because we're not aware of it. So that's why we might also call these conscious games. It's just being really aware of the games that we're playing and knowing that we can tweak them and change them. So our current systems all across the society is giving people trauma. And we want to design games that are all about love. Like, how do you design a civilization and society that's all around cultivating, stewarding, and helping people experience love? Because now we're finding out when you're in a state of love, it's literally healthier for your body. It nourishes the cells. You feel better, like you're more vibrant and exuberant and you're more intelligent. Like, humans who are in love are just objectively better humans. So if that's the case, then why aren't we designing civilization for us to always be in love? You don't get that, work is not for finding love, don't have relationships at work. No, you don't talk to people at school, sit here, shut up, listen to the teacher. Like, all those games are designed to kind of beat love out of us, and they do it really effectively, so people are just not even knowing what love feels like anymore, and it's freaking sad. Because of all the freaking trauma, right? Okay, so I did a long one on that. But I'm going to go deep into each one of these in the longer episode. But essentially one where it's all driven by patriarchy, and I'm a man, so this isn't man-hating. It's just recognizing that the new world is all around masculine and feminine balance. Right? Because when we do that, we're like a bird with two wings flapping balanced. You know, if one of them flaps chaotically or faster than the other or harder than the other, or, you know, working more than the other, the bird flies in circles. Doesn't get anywhere. So you need to have both wings balanced in order to fly straight. So that's our old paradigm. It's been flying in circles since, again, before Egypt. And we need a civilization that actually flies straight and takes us to where we want to go. We have a current paradigm that's all about shrinking the diversity of economies. So it's all about colonialism, expanding the empire, destroying other cultures and other languages and other options for experiencing reality. Like, it's all about, you know, the one empire to rule them all. One currency, one governance system, blah, blah, blah. Why the new paradigm is the exact opposite. It's how nature works. As forests and ecosystems become more mature, they, you know, create more diversity, more life, more expressions of ways to experience reality. So that's where the new movement is all about, is it's not saying, you know, seeds is the currency to rule them all. It's, no, let's think ecosystemically. How do we create diversity and unlock that freedom and expression and potential, right? You know, we have a current culture that's all about addiction. You know, it's really good for business to have an addicted customer base, right? Okay. So we created a game where it made sense to addict people, do terrible things. So we did that, and we're doing that. And that game also operates through creating scarcity. It's better to pollute waterways and then pump water out of the ground somewhere else and sell people of their polluted water back with bottles of water. That's what we're doing right now, you know, because we created water scarcity when we used to have water abundance. Food scarcity, housing scarcity, etc. The old game's all about creating scarcity because it's more valuable. Right? So we're creating that reality. We're taking an abundant world and making it scarce. That's what the game is doing. So the opposite of that is then healing our addictions, which we really need to focus on as a movement, is the awareness that we're all pretty addicted and pretty traumatized. So we've got to become aware of that as we're stepping into new games, right? That's part of the journey of crossing the bridge, is doing that healing. And then it's games that are all about creating abundance. So instead of ones that are like, hey, let's generate monocrops, corn seeds that are sterile so that the farmers constantly have to buy our seed and it's better at addicting them as customers, etc. That's what we do with our food systems. You know, abundance might look like, hey, let's plant food forests and let's create forests of food that just create an overabundance of free food. And we're going to get into this in the series about how ancient food forests all across the globe, from cultures who did create these food forests, how much food they produced. And what blows my mind is one tree species, and we'll get into the details of this, and it will be mind-blowing for you too. One tree species in the food forests of the U.S. America, so Eastern America and the Appalachians, one tree species, the chestnut tree, created more food than the entire U.S. industrial agriculture system does today. So all the corn, all the wheat, all the milk, everything, you add it all up, and it is less than the free chestnuts that were falling from those trees hundreds of years ago. I know it blows your mind. I'll get into the facts. But that's what is possible on this planet, is ridiculous abundance, and we can create it if we're playing games that supported that. It's moving from materialism, stuff that doesn't serve us right. We already all get this, to holism, recognizing the whole picture. What does it really mean to have a thriving life? You know, does more stuff make for a better life? We know it doesn't, you know. So it's really considering what helps make a thriving life and designing a game around that. So the old game is about degeneration and domination, you know, empire to rule them all, let's subjugate everything else, subjugate nature, etc., which has been fueling that fear, shame, and guilt. So much of this, our whole culture is about this. You turn on TV and it's all about, you know, fear, shame, and guilt and driving these buttons, right? And that degenerates our biology. It's literally killing us. Why the opposite, you know, regeneration and partnership, when we're in love, that heals, you know, that fear, shame, and guilt. And when you're in love and when you're in this, you know, the positive emotions, you're maturing. So this is how we get more mature as a human species, is through stepping out of these degenerative And in case you don't believe me that the current games are all about, fear and trauma and all of this greed and corruption, this is literally their fear and greed index for the stock market. The invisible hand that drives the monopoly-based economy and world and game is all about fear on one side or greed. They don't even have a happy and fulfilled and thriving and a life worth living and love. That's not even on their index. Their index is either you're greedy or you're fearful. And both of those create the stress response that get us hyper addicted to that game. And it's freaking not healthy, and we're seeing the results of it. So this is just a very practical example of how broken, at least according to what serves our biology and a life worth living, the current games we're all being born into right now are. All right, so let's keep going. Systems. And we mature through relationship. So this is through connecting with one another, getting to know people deeply and fully, not this superficial way and this, materialism-driven way of knowing people now, trying to get more customers. Now it's about really deeply understanding diverse perspectives so that we mature and our perspective in reality matures. And it's just so fun, like having relationships with plants and other animals. Like it's such a magical experience to be able to hug a bear and to feel that bear, that big, huge, powerful, ridiculous, awesome animal, and feel it like hugging you and enjoying you too. Like, what? And the feeling of like a squirrel running up your shoulder and bringing you a nut. Like, having relationships with the other life on this earth, I'm looking outside right now, is like, that's what it's about. So, regeneration and healing ourselves is about having relationships with all the non-human forms of life again. All the plants, like growing a plant from having that seed in your mouth and constantly seeing it every day, and then watching it flower and then fruit and then eating that fruit, like nothing tastes better than that. Like the relationship with that plant and the food it produces for me is just on another level. So this is where I think the heart of regeneration is creating relationship with each other, with the earth, with the world, with the living, breathing, alive world again. But what is the problem? All the communities that try to do this, when they try to cross this bridge, or actually this bridge doesn't exist in this scenario, so when they try to cross down here, there's an 80% failure rate. So I'm talking about all the cultures that dropped out, intentional communities, eco-villages, and all this stuff. There's greater than 80% being generous, of a failure rate of groups that have tried to do that, because it's really complicated to play new games with a bunch of traumatized people who are addicted to an old game. So without proper support systems, i.e. a bridge to get across, it's a huge failure rate. So that's what we're all about, is the systems I'm going to talk about today. They're all about the left side of this bridge. They're really trying to root into the current reality, the current games. So that's why we're about, creating tokens that connect to capitalism and having dollar value and that type of stuff. And Hypha that can set up legal entities and actually own land and shares in the old game, etc. It's all about building the infrastructure that connects into the current games and the current realities. And just like a bridge that only went halfway, if that's all we did, then, it was a useless bridge. Now we have capitalism 3.0 on the blockchain and bigger, faster, stronger destruction of life. So the other half of the bridge is what's really important, and that's what we're going to keep getting into in these following episodes and series. And these are represented as different land projects. So these are physical communities on the ground, redesigning what reality looks like in that place in relationship with that piece of earth. And every land project is going to have a different unique game based on their culture and environment, what they're trying to achieve, and all of this. So this is really where we get to experience what life looks like on the other side of the bridge. And then what we're going to do to help support and create this bridge is ally with a bunch of organizations. And we've already done this, about 30 different ones that we've made videos of so far. And we'll keep adding new alliance organizations. And if you're watching this and you're part of an organization and you're like, heck yes, we are part of this bridge, we want to join this alliance, awesome, reach out to us. And just leave a comment in this video, share what you're up to, and then other people can see what you're up to too. And we can connect all the alliances together in these new economic systems, which is what the whole game is going forward. So essentially this is it. This is the game. We're trying to get from one paradigm to another, and we want to do that intelligently and effectively. Let's build an actual bridge. Let's make sure we have that infrastructure and support so we don't have that 80+% failure rate. All right, so now for the rest of this episode, I'm going to dive into all the different ways you can play the game. But first, we're going to start off with some ground rules about the game. So before we dive into all the ways to play the game, we've got to talk about some basics. And one of the first things you got to learn about is the wallet. So what you see here is the wallet. I'm actually going to walk you through my wallet. So you see I've got 23,000 seeds here about, and you see some different tokens I'm holding in different DAOs and organizations that I'm a part of. So that's the cool thing about the Seeds wallet, is as you're earning tokens in all the different organizations, groups, bioregions, villages, etc., you can have them all visible here. And you can send and receive instantly. I want to show you this real quick because this is a really important feature. We put a lot of time into building these tools because we knew it was really important for them to work well, work beautifully, and just have a really simple interface. So that's what we're going for here. So here's me sending 5 seeds to my wife. And just like that, free and instant. So that's one of my favorite things, of course, that you can do stuff for free and instantly and not a whole bunch of fees and middlemen and all that stuff. And then what you see here is I actually got my GRAT seeds given to me. This happens at the start of every cycle, which is the lunar cycle. So we're really trying to get reconnected with the moon and following those natural rhythms and phases. But also from a very technical reason, it just makes sense to do it on the lunar cycle because it's this consistent number of days and not random calendars that, you know, swap back and forth. So we organize around the moon, and every new moon, this GRATS is distributed, and here's my last distribution. Okay, some things I really want to show you. At the top right here, you see this button. That is where you go to see the QR. So here's me looking at the screen, no QR to scan, but this is how you scan things and sign things when there's a QR code for you to sign. Because the big thing about the wallet here is this is your identity. So here's your profile here. This is essentially your, I guess, passport, your account within this new civilization that we're creating together. So this is how people know it is you, because in this security section, you have your own private key that's meant to just be yours. You never want to share this with anyone, because if they have this, they can pretend to be you. They can basically sign for you, have access to your keys and your wallet and all your fancy stuff. So please don't ever give this out. And how we've built the wallet is that you have your key that's stored right here on your phone and only on your phone. Then what you can do is you could set up your key guardians. And what key guardians are there people who can recover your account should you lose them. So I'm actually not going to show you who my guardians are or who I'm a guardian for, but you can come to these places and you can see your own. So what the guardians are is, say you lost your phone, which is the place where your private key is stored. Uh-oh, that's, you know, a terrible thing. And you hear about that, you know, person lost their Bitcoin on their laptop. And essentially what that means is their private key for their Bitcoins was on their laptop and they lost it. And now they're trying to dig through a dump pile to, you know, recover that laptop. So we wanted to stay away from those horror stories. That obviously doesn't make for a good experience. So that's where the key guardians come in. Is 3 to 5 of your friends can recover your account should you lose them. So if you lose your phone, you can hit up your friends and family and they can actually recover your account. So it's really important to set that up when you're setting up your account here. All right, so a couple more things I want to show you in the wallet. You can come down here to this global button, and this is where we're just showing all the other buttons of things you can do. So at the top here, you can invite a friend. Now I'm going to tell you what that's about. Every invite needs to have seeds in it because every account needs a minimum of 5 seeds in order to be an account. And that's how we get away with those free and instant transactions, is instead of charging fees for how much you're, every single time you use it, instead what we're saying is, in order to have bandwidth on this network we're holding, you need to own a certain percentage of the network. And we're such an efficient blockchain, the one that Seeds is primarily running on. However, Seeds can run on multiple blockchains, and it runs on. If you want to know what blockchains it runs on, actually, you can go to the end of this series. this episode, and at the very end of it, there's an overview of the technical kind of how seeds and Hypha run. But anyway, we're not going to go there. So pulling this back in, the long story short is everyone is a co-owner of the network. They need to have some seeds planted, and I'm going to show you planted in next, in their account in order to get free transactions. But since we're so efficient, you only need about 5 seeds in order to do most transactions that new people are going to do. So a few, sends a day, a couple governance actions, that's a couple transactions on the blockchain, not a big deal. 5 seeds is plenty. But say you become a business or you're a large organization and you're starting to make a lot of transactions, that's when you'd have to start planting more seeds, right? But what I like to do is to send at least like 55 or, I typically send like 111 or 333 or whatever, because then they have seeds in order to be able to send some invites and to be able to, at least be able to set up the friends to be their key guardians for them, right? So you want to send people more than 5, otherwise they're not going to be able to have a fun time. Anyway, so this is how you invite people. And you can manage your invites here. So if people haven't claimed them, you can come back here and do stuff. And anyway, you can get to see how they've progressed from visitor to citizen. And essentially, all this means is moving from a visitor to a resident, which there might be some residents in here, to a citizen, is the main reason we're doing it is to try to verify humanity. Because each step of that process from visitor to resident to citizen, people in the community who are already residents and citizens need to vouch for you and say, yep, you're a real human. This is your one account. We trust that this is your one account, right? Because it's really important that people aren't having multiple accounts and that we're not letting a lot of robots into our community to just take it over, because the community is able to control the network. So we want to make sure that it is, since it's a democratic network, it is one person, one vote, and not, one person, 1,000 bots, 1,000 votes. So that's really the reason, the main primary technical reason for the visitor to citizen process. But the other reason is to just make sure that people are more invested in the network. They've taken time to understand it. They agree to the Constitution. They know how governance works, etc. So there is kind of a process from becoming a visitor to a citizen. And if you want to do that, you can watch the video that talks about that process. But either way, here you can track the people's process of the ones that you've invited. Okay, so we can come back here. Then you can come down to vouch. So like I just mentioned, in order for people to move from visitor to resident, you have to vouch for them. So when you join, if you want to move through the network and become more involved, you've got to have other people vouch for you. And how they do that is they come to their vouched for, you click vouch for a member, and then they put in their account. So I can say I'm going to vouch for my wife. She's already a citizen. But what it basically says here is that if you vouch for someone and they're later flagged by the community as a robot or a duplicate account, you're going to lose reputation. And reputation is really important, which we'll get into in a second, because it's your status in the community. And reputation, again, is just really trying to make sure that humans are actually humans in our network, but also being able to way of tracking how much people have contributed to the ecosystem. So vouching is a process of being able to give out your reputation, very similar to a community. We try to mirror natural dynamics here. And in any community, if I brought a friend who was just a real jerk to everyone else, that's going to negatively impact me. So I don't want to bring up, someone to one of my friends' house parties if I know they're going to steal a bunch of stuff, right? Because if it does, it's going to negatively reflect on me. And that's essentially what we've just duplicated in the code here. Is this process that if you invite people who end up being robots, you're going to lose reputation. So this actually helps us take out robot networks too. Because if one robot invited another robot and vouched for them and invited another one, etc., then if you find one of the robots in that chain, it decreases the reputation of all the robots before them, right? So anyway, because of this, we've actually had very little, attacks on the ecosystem. We did have some in the early days as we were working through the code. People were able to make duplicate accounts and take, advantage of part of the network, but we've kind of fought through that. And it's been, a year and a half since we've had any security issues. Not to say that can't happen. This is still new technology, but we've already kind of been battle tested, if you will, for the last few years. Okay, so this is the vouching process. So then the flag is what I was just telling you about. Same idea. If you believe that someone has a fake account, they're a fraud account, they're hacking each other or doing some type of malicious activity, then you can flag them. And if enough residents and citizens, we give more weight if you're a citizen, so if enough real people that we've verified to be real find other accounts to be fake or fraudulent, then that account is removed. And it depends on how much reputation you have is how powerful your flag is. And we can tweak all of this stuff. So Seeds itself is an infinite game, and we just set out all of these parameters that we can continue to evolve as a community. So we get to keep evolving our game, right? And how it works right now, though, is that the more reputation you have, the more your flag is worth, the less people it takes in order to actually flag a fake account. And right now, it's like if 3 of the highest reputation people flag an account, then it's able to block that account. Okay, then you can come down to vote. And what I mean by block that account, I don't mean seize their assets. All it means is that they are no longer a resident and citizen, so they no longer get the benefits of that ecosystem. They can't participate in governance, they don't get to distribute gratitude and some of the other things I'll show you, but it doesn't take their assets. So we don't have currently a process for being able to say, hey, that person stole my money, I want to take it back. Although technically that is possible, it requires a signature that no one's able to give, except for the whole network. So it can happen that if all the citizens come together and vote for an action like that to happen, it can. But currently it hasn't been part of the community process, and there's not any user interfaces to go through that. So we've never had a governance scenario where someone's assets have been taken. But what we have done is we went through this multi-year process. So you can come to the history here and you can see all the proposals that the Seed Citizen have gone through, and there is a lot. And it's been a really long journey. So you can see a lot of the different ideas that came up. And what was happening here is Seeds as a community was giving out some initial currency for a whole bunch of what we wanted to be regeneration in the world. And it was up to the community to figure that out. But we ended up pausing this because what we found out was a global governance system giving out currency for a global movement was a lot of work. It burnt a lot of the core team out trying to manage that complexity. And we realized we needed the DAO tools for communities to organize on bioregional and local levels. And that was a way better way to do governance. So then we ended up pausing this whole governance thing. And as a sidebar here, we used to have this app called the Passport, and a lot of members who've already been part of Seeds are probably very familiar with that, and that's where we were doing all our governance. And when the community realized we needed to actually have multiple places to do governance and started building the DAO technology, that's when we kind of sunset the Passport and stopped doing governance as a whole community because it just wasn't functional. But we learned a ton about decentralized governance and how to do it, and it's been such a beautiful journey. So either way, the vote section is no longer active right now because we're not putting up proposals, but very shortly when you click on this, it's actually going to send you to the Seeds DAO and the community section there, and then we can start doing our governance again. And that'll just be stuff that affects the global community. So it'll no longer be individual proposals and teams making proposals to the whole global community. Instead, that stuff's going to happen on a DAO level, which we're going to get into later on how to claim your contributions to the movement. So stick around. Okay, so now we have the plant seed section. And as I explained to you earlier, if you're trying to make more transactions on the network, or you want to get some more benefits, there's other things you get for planting seeds, then you can come here and you can plant some more seeds. Right, so I can say I'm going to plant 333 more. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to mess up my perfect ones that I had going on there to show you guys this. But then I can come over here and unplant them. So I can say, oh no, I've messed up all my beautiful ones. So now I want to unplant those seeds. But what happens is when you unplant seeds, it takes 3 months. So it's a slow process. It takes 12 weeks there at 8.33% of the amount is released each week. And this is kind of like a savings account, a CD in a bank, if you will. When you put your money in a CD, you're basically telling the bank, I'm gonna park this money here for a certain period of time, and in exchange, you're going to give me some benefits. Maybe it's interest on my money, which is all banks are giving you, but there's more things that we can do, right? And that's what Seeds actually does, is we say, okay, you park your money there, we're going to give you some benefits. But we don't want you to just be able to park it and then immediately unpark it, because then you don't risk anything. You can come in, right before the benefits happen, take the benefits and leave, creates a bunch of weird game dynamics. So we said, okay, you've got to park your money there, but then it's going to take a while to unpark it. And that lets the community do certain things, which if you're really interested in what more it does, you can get into the tokenomics videos that we've made and really dive deep into the tokenomics of seeds and how the whole economic system could work. But in short, the reason we have that unplant process is because when seeds are planted, they can't be used to buy things. So they're technically out of circulation. And when more currency is coming out of circulation and people are wanting to actually use that currency for doing stuff, then we have what's called an increase in demand. So the supply is decreasing. There's more people wanting to use the currency to do stuff. Typically under that decreasing supply, increasing demand scenario, we would have an increase in the value of whatever that is, whether it's a currency or a commodity or, a rental at an apartment or whatever it is, right? If, supply is decreasing, demand is increasing, that means the price will likely increase. But we as a community could say, maybe we don't want the price to increase. Maybe we just want it to stay stable, right? And in order for us to be able to make that stability happen, we need to know how many tokens are in circulation. So how many have been taken out by planting them versus how many are in. Okay, so knowing those things, then we know how many more new currency we need to create in order to meet any new demand. So as our community is growing and more people are using this currency, they think a fee-free instant-to-use currency is better than ones that are going to charge you fees or track you or do something weird. So we think that there's a lot of good reasons that this currency will become valuable because it's free and instant to use. That's a very powerful feature. So if people are wanting it and they want to get seeds, you can get some here, clicking this button. Then we have this ability to create new seeds in order to keep that value stable. And that's what we would call a harvest. But that harvest isn't going to happen yet. It's not going to happen until we give out all the initial seeds to our community. And we actually have a large enough community to have that supply and demand, dynamics happening. And that'll probably happen around 1 million people. So we're at about 7,500 now. So we've got a little ways to go before we kickstart the harvest. But essentially how the harvest is going to get distributed is by how much you've contributed. So your contribution score is right here. And essentially what this means is it's 99 out of the 99th percentile. I've been here since the start. I do stuff all the time. Obviously my contribution is really high. And actually what you see down here is the wallet isn't connecting to my transactions yet because this hasn't kicked off yet. So once the harvest actually kickstarts, we have this go live moment, then the transactions will start being tracked, and that will matter. But we still wanted to test out because being able to track transactions, maybe bots can come in here and just make a bunch of fake transactions, and that's kind of lame. So we still have some research to do on how to track transactions and be able to test a bunch of stuff. So anyway, that's why this is turned off right now. But currently there's 3 ways of being able to build my contribution score, and that's how many seeds I have planted and what percentile I'm in. So the percentile is really important to us because it's how we get rid of the extreme wealth concentration we see today. Where, for example, in a regular proof of stake network, where people just take tokens and you stake them, and how many tokens you've staked, you get more tokens. Well, that means the more money you have, the more money you're going to get. So as you get even more money, it gives you even more money. And those feedback loops tend to make it so that wealth concentrates. And then you have oligarchies and smaller numbers of people owning more of the wealth, and that's not great. The counter to that, some people come out and say, actually, everyone should own exactly the same. And we didn't think that was right either, because then maybe some people who are part of the network all the time, contributing all their lives, are a huge part of it. Why should they get the same reward as someone who just used seeds one time to buy a sandwich? So we wanted to have a middle ground, and we picked 99 levels. So we picked a percentile distribution. which means if you're in the 99th percentile, then everyone in the 99th percentile gets a certain reward, the highest reward. And then everyone in the 98th percentile gets a slightly less reward, and on and on and on, so that everyone in the community is getting a reward based on what percentile they're in. So that means if I had half of the seeds planted, I would still be in the 99th percentile, even next to the person who only has 2% of the seeds planted. So I'm not going to get half of the reward anymore. I'm still just going to be in the 99th percentile. So it also gets rid of the incentive to continually hoard excessively, wealth, but while still having this ability to be accurately represented, what percentile you're contributing to, right? So that's how all three of these sections work. Is you're graded on your percentile for how many seeds you have planted. You're graded in your percentile by what reputation you have in the community. And you earn reputation by participating in governance and having people vouch for you. So that's the two ways you earn reputation right now. And community is for inviting people and helping them through that resident and citizen process. So this is for people who are onboarding, welcoming people along, hosting parties, etc. You build your community score. Now, each one of these three areas, we can build on them. And the transaction area too, in fact, all of them. Because this is an infinite game. So as we get going, we say, what other ways can we say is community building? And what other ways do we want to recognize people for building community? We can start programming them into our game, right? So that's basically what all this is. It's the foundation for us to play an infinite game where we can then decide how we want to, track contributions. Do we want to add another thing here where all of a sudden we're tracking how green your bioregion's becoming or how many trees you've planted or whatever, right? There's so many ways we can evolve this in a really fun, beautiful way. Okay, so that's essentially how it works. Is once the harvest starts, it's going to be programmatically distributed to people based on their contribution score. So it's just an automatic way of being able to play this game and get seen and recognized for it. Okay, so that's kind of the basics of seeds. Soon enough, we're going to have this region center, but currently we have the LocalScale platform, which I think has a lot more functionality for bioregions. So it's probably a little bit more valuable, and maybe this button in the future will even just link to LocalScale, and having this vote button just link to the DAOs too might be really cool. And that's just kind of how a decentralized ecosystem works. I'm literally telling any developer out there who might want to build these functions into our wallet, maybe even some active developers in the Seeds community, then you can actually program that if you think this is a good idea too. Anyhow, because all our tools are open source. So anyone can literally copy this wallet that I'm showing you here. Some organizations have, like LocalScale has too, and now they have their own LocalScale wallet. So other ecosystems and organizations that want their own wallet, you can feel free to copy this code and technology. We just ask that if you do that, to share the awesome things you're building and keep it open source. So if you build new functions and features, the whole community can benefit from that. Okay, so that's essentially the wallet. It's pretty straightforward. And I just wanted to remind you one more time about this QR function here. So whenever you see a QR code to sign, like for example with gratitude that I'll talk about next, this is where you're going to find that QR code to be able to scan things. Okay, so now we're going to take the wallet down. Okay. So for this next section, we're going to go over some of the high-level ways that we can play the game. So we've made a simple graph here where we have one axis, which is talking about what mode are we playing the game? As in, are we playing on easy mode, on medium mode, hard mode? Just like any game, there's different difficulty levels. And then the other axis is talking about the level of dedication. So this is another indicator of how much time is it going to take. So on one end of the spectrum, we have it on really easy to do, a low effort, low amount of time ways of playing the game, which we'll speak to, all the way on the other side where it's a ton of time and it's your full-on life. I mean, this is essentially what my wife and I decided we were going to do however many years ago. And we said, we're here to fully play the game and create this world for our children, because what else are we here to do? So we've dived into the game on the highest dedication and the hardest mode we could possibly figure to start creating the game and creating the realities that we wanted to live in. So we're going to touch on a whole bunch of different ways that you can be able to play this game. So let's keep going. Down here at the bottom left, we have give and get gratitude. So this is the simplest way that you can show up and really participate in the Seeds ecosystem. And what gratitude is it's our attempt at, codifying gratitude, how it really works. So for example, if I love someone and I appreciate them for just doing something beautiful in my life and I give them a hug, we both get an oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine release and just feel so good and showers our body in health and healing. Like we both benefit from that exchange of gratitude for someone bringing more beauty and joy into our life. So gratitude is kind of it's an experiment in regenerative economies and what regenerative financial systems might look like. So instead of having, win-lose money where when I give some to you, I have less, we wanted this exchange where when we acknowledged each other for contributing to the joy for ourselves and the world around us, then we both benefit from it. And that's essentially what gratitude is you earn seeds by giving and getting gratitude. So giving it actually benefits you as well, and so does receiving it. And this is also an experiment at how do we fully decentralize a financial system distributing money. So we have that one route that I was showing you with the contribution score in the wallet, but we also have this giving gratitude. So now when people are showing up to the movement and making art, writing articles, telling stories, developing technology, just doing whatever the community might enjoy, planting gardens and, healing people, putting on events and all the things, right? Then we can just acknowledge them by sending them gratitude. And what Seeds does, and I showed you how I earned some seeds last cycle, is it has a pot of seeds that it's distributing out every moon cycle based on who's received and gotten gratitude. Now, hopefully soon we have in the wallet just a simple button for sending gratitude. I'm sure that's going to be there hopefully soon. But right now we're also using the Seeds community Discord. So there's a link to join the Discord below if you want. And this is also a great place to show up, say hi. We love people making about a 3.5 minute video, 3 minutes and 33 seconds, introducing yourself, saying, why you're here, what you're bringing to the Renaissance, who you're looking for, what visions you'd like to manifest here, right? Just some beautiful way of introducing yourself so other organizations and groups might be able to be like, oh, wow, you love doing that, and you might love playing with us and be able to invite you to play together. So go ahead and join the Discord below, and this is what it looks like. It's kind of a mess right now. We've been through a lot, and we started making new channels for every working group that got together, and we got too many, so we need to do some gardening. Our forest is pretty rugged and scares people, so bear with us. However, if you come down to this community section, you go to gratitude, and we're going to zoom in here, and I'm going to show you how gratitude works. You type exclamation point ACK, and that means acknowledgement. So you're acknowledging something, and the exclamation point just calls the bot and lets them know you're talking to a bot here. And I'm going to say @ and then you put in their Discord channel. So I'm going to put Nadim, and I'm going to say for support with LocalScale. Nadim's been doing awesome stuff with LocalScale, helping get seeds as an actual currency out there and usable. If you want to know more about LocalScale, we talk about it later in this video. And then you click OK, just like that. And then you see the Grats bot comes and says, yep, I've done that. So now I'm going to come here to my messages. I'm going to see that QR code from the gratitude bot. And then I'm going to sign it with my phone. So you see it right here. You bring up your wallet. You got your QR signer. You click QR sign, hover it over it, confirm and send. Generally you could also check over the little thing that it says there because it's saying what it's actually going to do. Then you go ahead and close it, and that's it. So now I have sent gratitude to Nadim, and that's all I have to do. So I'm going to take you back out of the Discord for now. There's a bunch of channels in there. Feel free to say hello. There's also that introduction channel where you can introduce yourself. So anyway, get lost in Discord. It's a crazy place. So that's how we give and get gratitude. Again, it's an experiment. We're evolving here. We're tweaking what it means to give and get gratitude. Currently, when you're receiving gratitude, you're receiving more seeds than when you're giving it, even, because giving it. Anyway, we could tweak that. So we could talk about gratitude, and there's a DAO for that, which I'm going to get into DAOs later and which DAOs to join. There's a DAO around gratitude and designing that process and tweaking it. So if geeking out on designing gratitude inspires you, then you can join that DAO. Also, we're looking for healers because we hold these things called healing and gratitude circles, which is this beautiful way to like just heal with each other, talk about the different healing modalities we're learning, offer gifts of healing. So whether that's, a breathwork practice or a guided meditation or a song or a poem, like there's so many ways we can gather and create healing containers together. And that's what we're also seeing as an experiment of what does a regenerative civilization look like, doing governance and quorum sensing and coordinating together, right? Like coming together, going through this shared process of healing. And then talking about what we're grateful for, which is also a way of doing decentralized governance, because someone can come up and be like, I'm really grateful for this new app that we've created as an ecosystem. People are like, oh, cool, I didn't know about that app. I'm also grateful for that, and I'm going to use it, and let's send them some gratitude. But it could also be, I'm really grateful for this food forest that was planted, or for this waterway that's now drinkable again. All these things that we're also doing in our regenerative renaissance, right? So anyway, it's a fully decentralized way of distributing money, and it's a pretty easy thing to do. I just showed you, and it's pretty low dedication, I think, because you can show up, give some gratitude, get some, that's it. There's really no responsibility beyond that. Okay, so then you move up on this journey of ours. You gave and got some gratitude. You thought that was fun. Now you can do a quest. And we're going to have a playlist in the Seeds channel for all the open quests. And a quest is basically do something and get a reward. So just like epic quests, right? And it could be like a bioregion putting on a gardening day and saying, hey, show up and do our gardening day, and we're going to give you 300 tokens for showing up. Or it could be like, we're going to go on this epic quest of healing, and there's this long rite of passage journey that's got multiple steps. And at the end of this whole journey, yes, you're going to get some token reward, but also you get to access this new DAO where only people who have gone through this rite of passage quest, could be a part of. And whilst this is also just fun game dynamics, and just why not? If we can create a civilization that's just this big epic game, why don't we? But the other part of this is very practical technology, questing and rite of passage. It was a social technology for helping people move from one stage of their life into another, by like fully letting go of their old egos and identities and their concepts of who they were, letting go of what was no longer serving them and stepping into this new being, right? It's kind of the opposite of what we have today, like where, you leave your community, you go on this like healing journey, you go on your quest alone, then you come back from the community and they're like, hey, you're not this new person. And they kind of pull you back. Because rites of passage isn't a common thing in the dominant culture, at least the one that I'm a part of, or was a part of. So anyway, we highly encourage DAOs and groups that are getting started to consider some type of rite of passage, because this also means that that person needs to be capable of succeeding that rite of passage in order to get into that group. So it could be as simple as, you have a developer DAO with people who like to code, and their rite of passage is doing something, technologically that only if you're a good coder, are you going to be able to achieve it. So then the people who are in this DAO are people who are actually good coders, right? Or it could be, you want to go through a process of dealing with some of your own psychological traumas, at least some of the biggest ones, before you join an intentional community. Because they say we want to make sure everyone who's part of this group of humans, living a life together, have at least done a basic amount of, self-work on themselves. How they define that basic amount, is up to every DAO, right? So those are the ideas behind rites of passage, which are baked into quests, which again is just complete these tasks and you gain something. So there's going to be a lot of quests in our ecosystem. Every DAO can also have their own quests that they're putting on. And there's a lot of different DAOs we're going to talk on at the end of this video. Actually, I'm just going to show you guys that right now. Let's dive into the DAO world. So if you go to dao.hypha.earth, we're going to be able to see some DAOs. So here we are. Here's all of our beautiful DAOs in the DAO world. So for example, if there's some DAOs or some quests that you want to participate in the Seeds Collaboratory, which this is holding space for the Seeds ecosystem, right? They're saying right here, stewarding the health of the Seeds ecosystem. So that's the role of this particular organization. So if you're joining Seeds and you're saying, yes, I want to actually work on Seeds itself, this is the DAO for you. But there's a lot of different DAOs, and I liken all the different DAOs to organs in a body, for example. And this analogy is just so perfect. Is that, stomach cells are stomach cells. They thrive in the stomach. But a stomach cell that's used to being around that acid, no oxygen environment, is not going to thrive very well in the lungs, for example. And vice versa, the lung cell is not going to be happy down there. It's not going to be their environment. So whilst the movement is one organism where there's space for everyone, like everyone belongs in the whole, not every lung cell wants to be part of the stomach cells, and hang out in the stomach, or a heart cell, or the brain cells, etc. So that's kind of what we're seeing here, is all these different DAOs are like different organs. So if you show up to the movement, you join one, DAO, for example, and it doesn't feel right for you, there's not the right resonance, listen to that. And then there's other DAOs for you. So there's going to be a lot of places for you to be able to join and find a group that connects with you and what you're up to. And if there's not, that might be a reason to create a new DAO. But those are the next steps, and I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's talk about quests again. So let's say you want to go on a quest. All right, so let's jump into one of these organs. Here's the ReGen Civics Alliance, which is scaling and coordinating the transition to regenerative communities, bioregions, villages, and economies. So this organ's function in the ecosystem is we're here to have an alliance of the organizations and projects who are really, really focused on using these tools specifically for creating communities, bioregions, and villages. So like land-based projects of humans coming together to reimagine how they want to live together and raise their families together and experience reality together. Like this is the on-the-ground practical implementation of these tools for different types of land-based projects. So that's very particular because this whole Seeds ecosystem is very open to a lot of different things. So if you're really interested in this, maybe you might show up to the ReGen Civics Alliance, right? And then you can come down here to proposals and you can look for any active quests, but it doesn't look like there's any active quests here. So what can you do with an infinite game? Actually, sorry, before you dive in, if you wanted to join this DAO, there's going to be a Become a Member button up here. I'm already a member, so I don't see it. But if I wasn't, I'd see a button up here to request membership, and that would be the first thing you do. And you can come here to members, and you can see the ones that have applied, and the ones who are current members, etc. So what's cool about all these DAOs is they're all super transparent and open. So that's just really fun to be able to coordinate that way, because then we can learn from each other and go explore what other groups are doing, and people can show up and just create and contribute to what you're doing, and it's just so fun and beautiful, and we meet so many incredible humans. Anyhow, so infinite game. You come here and you click new proposal, you click quest, and I can say complete an active quest, and it would show me the active quests right here, but there's none, like I just said. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is start a new quest. I'm going to name a quest. And what I think is going to be really cool is go on a healing journey. And this healing journey is going to involve going to an ancient forest and collecting some soil, small amounts, to make healing ferments with. Because ancient soil has so much microbiology and life in it that when we consume this, our microbiology just explodes with life and we get filled with health. And there's an argument out there that humans are really just cities for these microorganisms, and the more diversity they have, the more healthy we are, and it's just this life loves diversity, right? And one of the best ways of doing that is going to the most ancient forest in your bioregion. So don't travel to another one because you're not going to get relevant microbiology that way, or at least not as relevant. So go to the ones in your bioregion, connect with them, and go find the best soil you can. And good soil tastes good. I've been doing this for a while now, and it's just, I love it. So I go and find some soil, just a little bit. You don't need much, like a teaspoon. And then you put that teaspoon right in your lips. I know, again, this might be weird for some of you, but keep in mind, humans are literally designed intuitively to do this. You think of babies. I see my son all the time. He's out in nature and he's just putting everything in his mouth because he's trying to build his microbiome. Let's be smart about this. Anyway, that's an actual quest we're going to be putting together, so it'll be one of the first quests I put up, so I'm also letting you all know. And again, we'll have a playlist for quests that will link below in this video if you want to take on some quests, and there'll be a little bit of a video for each one of them and how to do it. But anyway, this is how you could propose a new quest, which is what I'm going to do right now. Actually, this DAO is not accepting any new proposals yet. We haven't kickstarted it yet. And we're still experiencing some bugs, but I didn't want to wait to make this video until the bugs were squashed because I'm impatient. So by the time you guys are watching this video, this should be fixed and you'd be able to put in a duration. But moving to the next step, you can type in the dollar amount of value that you're getting. So we're still using dollars as a relative value number right now, or you can think of them as euros. That's going to be an option in the future, but so too will seeds be. So after go live, when seeds become stable, that's going to be one of the options for us to use as our reference point for what value is. But in this transitionary stage, we're still using dollars as a reference point because, you know, this is already new enough. We don't want to break people. Okay, so the next thing you have here is this idea of the deferred amount. So all these DAO tools give you the ability to issue 3 different tokens. One of them being a cash token. So you're only issuing this token if you have another treasury, whether there's a bank account with dollars in it or a Bitcoin account with Bitcoin in it, or a seeds account with seeds in it, or etc. That you have some account that's got some dollar value to it, right? That you're then issuing these tokens and people can claim that other token or that bank account transfer. So this is for issuing dollars in your movement. If you don't have dollar value to issue, then you can issue your own token, right? Which is your own utility token, which could mean anything. So maybe it's literally equity in your land-based project, which you can do. You can attach these DAOs to legal entities. Lots of jurisdictions are doing this, really cool stuff. And then you can issue actual equity this way. So if you wanted to do your startup, this is a really cool way of doing it. Just we did our startups this way. We're attaching them to legal entities. Land-based projects are doing it, and it's great. So now you can issue actual equity instead of dollars if you don't have it. And this is so vital because now we can pay people what they're actually worth rather than all this BS that our old culture does, where it says like, oh, we don't have very much money to pay you right now, so we're just going to pay you a small amount and give you all these promises in the future. Instead, if you don't have money to pay them, fine, you're paying them in equity though, and pay them what they're actually worth, right? So anyway, I think this healing quest is worth a lot. Because the amount of healing that's going to come from it is going to improve your capacity to execute the transition of reality more effectively. So we think that's really valuable. So we're going to issue a ton of tokens if you go on this healing journey. Or at least that's my proposal. So here is my proposal for a quest. I get to publish it to staging. I cannot do that because I didn't choose that period. So that's not going to work for me right now. But if it was working, you could publish it to staging, come back to proposals, and you see the different proposals that are in staging. So then what happens is you can come into these, and then that's when the community will, comment on it and give different feedback and say, hey, we like this idea. Maybe the number is too high, it's too low. What if the quest had X, Y, Z, etc. So this is where we evolve the proposal, and you get a sense of how the vote might go, because this is where governance actually happens. The vote just makes things secure, transparent, and clear for people. Really, governance happens here in the comments section where we're evolving a proposal together. But once you get like an idea that's like, yep, we think this proposal is going to pass, that's when you can put the proposal up for a vote. And I'll actually show you me putting not the pizza man, that's a joke. We're going to do the Gnosis Safe Keyholder badge, which is a real thing, which is saying the person who holds this badge has power over this other account, which is a Gnosis safe on Ethereum. So we're on multiple blockchains. We also hold assets on Ethereum, and we can govern who's holding those assets with a badge system over here. So anyway, I'm going to publish this. Then you see this QR code pop up. We're going to get into the Hypha wallet this time because it's more effective here. And if you want to know how the Hypha wallet works to the Seeds wallet, check out the end of this video and there's a tutorial on that. But either way, it looks like this. You pull up your Hypha wallet, click scan QR code, scan it, slide that over, and you see it like that. Success. All right, and then just like that, those two proposals, let's refresh. And then you see that those proposed ones have now moved over to the active proposals. And now they're actually getting voted on. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to vote on this. And I'm going to say, yep, I'm going to support this proposal. I'm going to vote yes. And then you're going to do that same thing. So we're going to pull up the wallet again. You click on that scan QR code right here. You bring it over to that QR. You see what's passing right here. Vote pass. Okay, verify the details. I'm going to slide that over, and once again, voila. So again, this way your keys always stay on your phone, secured by that key guardian system, and you're never having to put them on your computer or anything else in order to use them. So it's really powerful and important. Okay, so I voted yes on that. We can refresh again, and there you go. Now it shows that I voted, but I'm going to have to go and get some more votes because not enough people have voted. So I'm going to have to go around and tell some other people in the DAO to say, hey, you go, come vote on this. So we can actually pass it. And that's essentially how the game then evolves, because now this badge is going to be able to be applied for. So I can come down to new proposal and then have that recurring assignment and click on badge. And then once that's active, I'll be able to apply for it, like I can apply for these other badges. So this way we can keep adding new elements in our game, applying for it, filling up roles, filling up quests, and all these things, right? So this is kind of the infinite game we're playing together here. So if I bring us back to our overview here. All right, so I showed you just quests there and a little bit of that process. The next one over, that's a little bit more of the hard mode, is claiming. Because quests are typically, you could watch a video, it'd be like, hey, go out there, collect some ancient soil, come to the DAO, apply for that. Okay, you've done it, that's a quest. But claiming is a little bit more intense. So claiming is, and this only applies to some people, this is those who have already been contributing to the regenerative renaissance. So once again, Seeds isn't the renaissance, it's not the whole movement. We just thought, wouldn't it be cool if our movement had a financial system that was free to use that helped us coordinate more effectively? And then Seeds created a whole bunch of this new currency, which we're going to get into the tokenomics at the end, but essentially the majority of Seeds are still sitting in accounts ready to distribute them throughout our movement to all the organizations who've already been building all the tools and everything we need. And if you want to touch about some of those organizations, check at the end, and I go over a bunch of different organizations to give you an idea of who we're looking for. But either way, if you've been contributing to Seeds, the movement already, if you've been contributing in any way to the regenerative renaissance, we highly encourage you to show up and claim your contribution. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. So let's pop back over to the DAO. Let's leave the ReGen Civics. Actually, we're going to do it in the ReGen Civics Alliance still. So the ReGen Civics Alliance, real quick, is the alliance of organizations who are helping those land projects. So let's say you are an organization doing that. Let's give a real example. You're an organization that's created a whole bunch of templates for eco-village design. So eco-village design templates. Now, these things were a lot of work, in order to design the housing and the specs and like how to build it and all this open source stuff. That was a huge amount of work and effort on your end, and you open sourced them. You're awesome. You just know the movement needed this. We want to recognize you and everyone like you who have been building these things and providing all of this awesome stuff to our movement, and you haven't been recognized yet. So again, that's what Seeds is here to do, is recognize you and create a new financial system altogether. So this is when you then talk about it. Say, hey, here's all the things I did. X, Y, Z, label them all out. But what we really encourage is keep things in bullet point format here, because we're doing decentralized governance. We don't want to burn people out. So just say what you need to say, get rid of all the fluff. Please don't have AI write your stuff, because that's just even more fluffy. Or if you do, ask AI to condense it down into bullet points. So maybe do use AI. Anyway, regardless, bullet point format, what you've done. Now, some organizations might have circles. This is meaning it's basically a department. So that's organs within each organ, right? It's a fractal down farther. So for example, ReGen Civics Alliance might have a finance circle for proposals around finance, but it might have this alliance circle, which is then, people who are making these claims. But either way, there's no circles, so don't worry about this. Now this is really cool. This is where you get to upload videos. You only get 20 seconds, right? Max 3 megabytes. And why only 3 megabytes for all of this is we're storing all of this on the interplanetary file system. It's this decentralized database where nothing can get taken down, at least, you'd have to. It's really, really, really difficult. It's super secure, decentralized databases, so it's not like Google where your stuff can get taken down. We spent a lot of time building these tools. We needed them to be, fully decentralized and transparent and secure in order to really hold the importance of this game that we're creating. So yes, it's a game, but this is a very serious game. So this is where you can actually put those images, those templates that you've created, and now they will be stored on the interplanetary file system. How freaking cool is that? But people can check them out. Okay, so you can drag and drop or upload your stuff there. Then you click on your next step, give it a dollar amount. And remember, this goes into a staging place first. So if you don't know the dollar amount, you can actually say that as your first comment and just put in a random number and get feedback from the community to help you decide if you just really don't know. But try to take your best bet about the ballpark you're looking for. These things took them years, so they're pretty expensive. So we're going to give them $1 million worth of value. We really value what they've created. However, this alliance hasn't raised any money yet, so there's no treasury to be able to distribute out yet. So this is really just who owns this network together. That's really the first question we're asking with this alliance is all the different organizations show up, get a share of it, then they can fundraise together. And this is when they will then have a treasury and they can keep using this process to distribute that treasury. But anyway, so at the beginning stages, you're going to defer 100% of that. All right, and now we're going to get into that voice token. We didn't talk about this. So voice token is super cool because this is how you can separate who owns the value token, the utility token, whatever it's doing. Maybe it could be equity, but it could also just be recognizing a contribution, a thank you. It could be you need 100 of these and you get a free hat, or it could be, you need 1,000 of these and you can stay a night at our eco village, or whatever, right? So these are just tokens that every community is going to have a different flavor for what they're doing. And the voice tokens is how you distribute governance rights. So the more voice you have in a DAO, the more powerful your upvote is when you vote on things, or your downvote is, for example. Or if you're a community and you want one person, one vote, then you're going to click on this custom reward and you're going to distribute none. Or maybe you're just going to distribute one. And as people make their contribution, their one contribution maybe, then they get one voice token for that. And now everyone has one voice and they're all the same. So every community can do this however they want. And in this community, we're going to say the default is that you're earning voice at twice the rate as you're earning utility. So it's a contributor governed DAO. The more you contribute, the more voice you have. It's an interesting dynamic. So that's what we're exploring right now as a community. So we'll publish that to staging. Again, you pull out that wallet, you assign it. Really super simple there. All right, and now it's up for voting. Actually, not yet. I just need to appear in staging. Forgive me. Never mind. It's already here. All right, so now it's up in staging, and people can come in here and comment and say, hey, we love it. And every time you do anything in the DAO, we always need to make sure it's actually you. So then we know all your comments are you, representing you. So you sign everything. And that way we know that what's happening here is real and true and is representing the people and not, a bunch of bots doing stuff. So again, refresh, and then you'll see my comment here, etc. And then community talks about it. When I'm ready, I click publish. That's when it goes to vote. So again, that's kind of the process of doing your contributions. So I highly encourage, if you've been part of this movement, to come in here and find a place to claim your contribution. And if you're looking for those places, then watch the end of this video and they're going to go over a bunch of organizations. Also, we're going to have deep dives. We've already been recording tons of episodes, But we're going to start releasing episodes of each different DAO in our ecosystem and what they're up to, who they're looking for, how you can get involved in them, etc. So you can stick around this channel and keep watching until you find a DAO that's like, yep, that's the one I want to join. That's who I want to contribute to. So we can have a lot of fun that way. Okay, but again, if you've been part of Seeds, please, please, please come to the Seeds Collaboratory and claim your contribution to this movement. We want to recognize people who have been showing up to this movement already, who haven't already got recognized. So some people who've been contributing to Hypha have been recognized, and some people haven't. And that's actually why we entered a winter season and we stopped growing and, we stopped making momentum, because we got to this point where it became too unfair that only Hypha was working, because when we were building the technology in the early days, we didn't have all these DAOs yet. We didn't have the technology to host all these DAOs yet, we still had to build it. So we only had one DAO, which was the Hypha DAO. And if you're a part of that one, then you were being recognized. But there was way too much complexity with too many people wanting to join one organization. It just broke. And again, it would be like trying to birth a baby and saying, we just need the heart. We only need one organ, let's birth. Obviously it's going to be a stillbirth. You're going to have problems. So that's what we ran into, is by trying to only have one organization. It got way too complex. So that's the point where we knew we needed this whole ecosystem first. So that's where we're at today, is we took like a multi-year break to really build all of these different tools, onboard the different organizations, and get the ecosystem ready before we started inviting people back into the game, which is before I started making this video, which is what we're doing right now. So this is your invitation back into the game, to come find your organization and to claim your contribution. Okay, so let's keep flowing. What that contribution means when you're claiming it, what is the Seeds token? We talk about it, the tokenomics, at the end of this. So if you want to know about that, stick around, or you can even skip to that chapter. But we're going to talk about a couple more ways you can show up and create here. So now we're getting into the top right. We're getting into the much more dedication side. So in the bottom, where it's just low dedication, when you come and do that claim, it could be for your historical contributions, and now you don't want to do anything else after. So there's no dedication. All you have to do is show up, make your claim. It's a lot harder to make that claim and get it passed and figure out where to put it than it is to do a quest, right? So that's why it's on hard mode. But it's, no contribution needed after that. That's only if you want to keep claiming and keep contributing, right? And in that case, you might want to join. So that's when you might claim your contribution to a DAO, but then say, now I want to become part of this DAO. I want to have a role in this organization and contribute regularly, right? So now we're going to go over that process. So say you come and you're a developer and you want to help build this DAO technology and you like these tools, so you might come to the Hypha DAO. So let's come on over to here. And you might think, okay, I want to see what roles they have available. Let's click on New Proposal, come down to a recurring assignment. So this is me wanting to do something over and over. But bear in mind, some organizations prefer you start with a quest and a contribution just to kind of get to know the community and for the community to get to know you. So it's more encouraged to, start with a quest contribution and kind of work into a role and, feel out the community. But anyway, let's pretend you've already done that. You've gone through that quest and you're like, yes, I love this community. I'm going to try to apply for a role now. So you can come down and click on that role button. All right, so you would come down here and you would choose a role type. So every DAO is going to be able to define different role types for that DAO. So for example, a village might have different roles. That's like gardener, builder, etc., healer, whatever. Bioregions might have their own. That's like, the bioregional food forester or etc. But Hypha went through this phase where you can have any role you can create, but they had so many different roles that were created that it got really overwhelming. At some point, it was like 150 different options to choose from. Kind of overwhelmed people. So they broke it down to this system where there's 5 different archetypes of roles that you could hold in this organization. But again, each DAO can do their own thing and create whatever role types they want. So let's say you're wanting to be a builder. There's this builder archetype. So this is the one who is actually building tools. Why the pollinator is the one that's like telling stories about the DAO and, doing marketing, if you will. The catalyst is the one that's, actually bringing in new DAOs and helping them through that process. Innovators creating new possibilities for the DAO, designing new features, that sort of thing. Architect is kind of holding the whole thing together and, enabling the potential to be fully reached, so like crowdfunding and investment and financial flows and that type of stuff would be like in the architecting. So anyway, let's say you actually want to show up and build and create different cool features in our DAOs. And then they have these different role tiers. So Hypha did this own thing. Again, every DAO gets to design their own thing here. Maybe you follow like the, apprentice, journeyman, master thing that was really common in a lot of cultures, or, the trainee and the trained, or the teacher and the student. Like there's those types of relationships you can have, or you can have whatever you want. Maybe you only have one tier and everyone is the same. But basically what a tier means is the higher tiers essentially get more rewards, and it's a way of acknowledging the extra experience and wisdom, the other forms of capital there that a person might be bringing to that role. But it also might say the complexity of it. For example, a builder in the band 1 complexity might just be like, hey, very basic stuff, we need you to update the website when we give you tech, or opinions, right? So that might be like the first band is very basic understanding of what's going on, versus the highest band, which is like the one who's the wizard in blockchain and all the technology, and they're the ones that are doing the full stack development. They're the ones holding all of it down, right? So that's kind of the whole spectrum here, and obviously everything in between. So that's kind of the ideas here, is that each DAO can design their own and have their own kind of understanding to simplify how roles are getting paid, because otherwise we ran into this problem where we had like 500 different salaries and 500 different, 150 different roles, and it was just, it broke people's minds and it took a lot of time. So this is a way of trying to simplify that. So now you have like 7 different pay scales, 5 different types of roles, right? So we're going to say that first tier, you're just getting started in developing. So let's say your name. Hi, I'm Bob. And this is when you put in a description of why you want to apply for this role. So this is your resume, if you will. So this is what you're doing here. And you can actually upload your resume if you want, or a video about yourself, what you're up to. So this is how you're applying for that role, and you can let the community know. And whatever you put here is going to inform whether they're going to vote for you or not, right? So you put in the description. Come down to next step, you put in the time period for when you want to work. And again, we're following that lunar cycle. So each one of these is a lunar phase, because it's more consistent than months. So this is helping us get out of that Julian, like Roman calendar that's so random. Tiny aside here, do you know the reason we have July and August is because July was named after Julius Caesar. He just wanted a month named after him. So the Caesar of Rome is like, yeah, I'm just add another month. And then Augustus Caesar did the same, and we had July and August added. So that's why you get this weird thing where September, which is sept is 7, right? Oct is 8. It used to be that used to be the 7th and 8th month. Now they're the 9th and 10th month because of those 2 random months that were added. So anyway, we wanted to move away from this random, arbitrary, silly Roman calendar back to the lunar phases. And also that just made it easier from a programming perspective to have very consistent pay schedules, and when rewards were distributed and when things were tracked. We wanted to track it on lunar phases and cycles. So I know this is a change, but it's a really powerful change, we believe, in this new civilization we're stepping into, to get reattuned to the natural rhythms and patterns of the world. All right, so you come down and what duration you want to do it on. So you start all of it in your different lunar phases. So let's say I'm going to start on August the 2nd, and each period, again, is a week. It's a lunar phase, so you get to say how many periods. So I'm going to just try this roll out. I'm just new here, so I'm going to try it for just 1 month, starting the beginning of August. So now you get into your commitment level. How much do you want to commit? So this could be 100%. I'm full-time. I'm here, everything you need from me. Down to 5%, meaning I've got some time on Wednesday that I can really contribute to this, but, don't expect too much from me, So you get to do kind of everything in between. So this way you can accept all the different types of contributions, where the yearly salary at 100% is $70,000. If I'm bringing it down to, 10% of that, it's going to be $7,000, right? And this commitment level can be dynamic, which really helps us be flexible. Say you're going through life and you're like, I can only do every Wednesday for a little while. But now I just lost my job, or I quit because it was no longer fulfilling me and it was soul sucking, and I realized I was just serving the empire. That wasn't working for me. But now this DAO just raised money in their treasury, right on. Now I can get paid or whatever it is. Now you want to move up to 100%. You're like, yep, I'm ready to show up. So anyway, you can play with that commitment level, every DAO on their own. But know when you change it up, where you're asking for more money, that puts it up for a new proposal, and then the community needs to re-agree that, yes, we want to pay you more. But at any point when you want to go down in funding, you can do that on your own without asking permission, because you're taking less rewards, right? And you can just fall off if you need to. If you need to take a break, maybe you just want to take vacation and step away, you have the flexibility to show up and do that. Okay, so now you get into the deferred amount. We talked about this before. This is how much is going to come from the treasury versus how much you're going to get in those organizations' tokens. So in this case, you're like, well, I'm kind of new. I would like to have a bunch of the organization's tokens because I really believe in them, but I would also like to, get some cash because, for whatever reason. So maybe I'm just going to do 80%. Okay. So then it can go to next step. You see the whole thing, hi, I'm Bob, your description, what you're actually claiming, make sure it's all correct, right? You can make some edits if you need to. And then go ahead and publish that to staging. I'm not going to because I'm not Bob, so we're not going to actually make that real. So that's basically the idea behind roles. And then the same concept applies where it's not here right now anymore, where it used to be where you can create new roles, but what it's doing now is if you're the organization owner, then you're able to come in here and add new roles. So they've changed it that if you're holding the badge that gives you the ability to edit roles, that now you have that ability. So then rather than, at least in this DAO, this is how it's working, they didn't want anyone to be able to come in here and add more roles because they said we only have these 5. We wanted to simplify everything. We don't want new roles showing up here. We just want these 5. So they've kind of disabled that role feature. And your DAO can too. If you say, hey, these are only the 5 roles we're looking for, we're not looking for anything more, okay, you can do that. But you can also have it open that people can show up and add new roles and be able to just design their DAO that way. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. If you want to know more about the DAO and how to do governance and walk through that process, there's a couple other videos you can check out about how to set one of these things up. And we're going to put out a lot more videos, so stick around. Have some fun. Okay, so that is the creating a role side. So let's come back to our overview here. All right, so that's a lot more dedication to actually be joining and filling out a role, right? Than just doing that initial claim. Now, what is the highest dedication, the hardest mode? And that's catalyzing. So say none of those DAOs are for you. You don't want to join any. You're actually already an entrepreneur. You already have a startup that you're a part of, and you're already part of an organization or whatever it is, and you want to bring that organization into the ecosystem, set up its DAO, invite its members in, set up a new DAO. That is what the catalyze is. And down below in this, there's a form where there's a set up your DAO. So if you would like to do that and you'd like to bring your startup or your organization or create a new one altogether because you see that there's a gap, whatever it is, you can catalyze your own DAO and create your own. Obviously, that's the hardest thing you could be doing here is you're going to have to set that up, which means having all the documentation of what that DAO is about and helping invite new members and going through this governance process together of getting something going. But what I like to do is call it catalyze rather than a founder or an owner, because that's really what we're doing with DAOs. Not everyone has to do this. If you want to do the founder route and have that thing, you can do it too. What I'm just encouraging is that you really understand the concept of setting a living being in motion so that you can set up this container. That's what the catalyzers of a DAO are doing, is their job is to set up the container and the initial rules of the game, invite the members in, and then let go and just become a player of the game as well. And then after that point, you've catalyzed it, and now it's a living being, and it's on its own, and it's growing and doing its stuff. So that's why we call it catalyzing, is you're getting it started. And once it's started and it's in motion, then you can continue to just be a member or flow through other organizations, because maybe you're just good at catalyzing. So your role is to go around and catalyze new things. Either way, so that's the idea behind catalyzing. Now we're going to get into still a higher dedication way of showing up. However, it's a lot easier. and that is to just start trading in our economy. And I'm going to take you on over to LocalScale now to show off what that looks like. So say you're already a creator, you've already got offerings in the world, and you're like, yep, I want to be part of the Renaissance, I want to contribute, but all of those things aren't for me because I'm already growing food, or I'm already, building pottery, or, I'm already helping people go through healing journeys, or you're already doing something and contributing to the Renaissance in a different way. Well, you can bring those offerings to our marketplace and support this ecosystem and start trading your services for the currency that we're distributing out and helping make this currency more usable. So this is our way of saying, you know what, we're committing to, not using this empire currency as much anymore, right? Because when we do, we're just giving our control to them. I know the whole battle is like, oh, they're trying to go digital and take away cash, fight for cash, but this is still empire cash, guys, I know I'm not supposed to say that. I'm not supposed to talk ill on the empire because it's all like faux pas and, you can get in trouble. But let's just call it as what it is. Trillions of dollars of empire money is going to fund all the problems, all the stuff that's degenerating and killing our world and funding warfare. It's all because this game. So if we don't believe in that game anymore, then we can't keep empowering it by continuing to give it all our power. But we realize we got to transition because it still has a lot of power. So that's really what LocalScale is about. It's that transition tool. So let me take you to the different tools that it has and help you get a little bit of understanding of LocalScale. So one of its tools, it has a farmer's market manager. I'm going to show you what it looks like, super slick and easy. And this is if you're a food producer, if you've got I'm producing a garden right now. I love it because I just have to eat my own food. And we are growing a ton of food right now. And we're about to have an overabundance of food. And when I do, I'm going to add my extra food because I'm growing abundance, not lawns. And I highly encourage anyone who has access to a lawn, whether it's your parents or friends or neighbors. And actually, that's something that we're going to add to this platform too, is a marketplace for people to rent their lawns and get free food and some tokens too, to people to be able to grow on it and start setting up our local food systems. And people who rent their lawns, you don't have to mow your lawn anymore. You get a free baskets of food for your family, and you're going to get some tokens. It's like, triple win. So giving your, lawn over is awesome. And then this also gives more space for those who are producing food and selling it on here to then go and set up their little food forests on a whole neighborhood of lawns. So you can literally go to a neighborhood, go door to door knocking, be like, do you hate growing, mowing your lawn all the time? Would you rather it be a food forest that's beautiful and producing food? Cool. And, see if a whole, neighborhood wants to join you. So anyway, this is all this different stuff we could be doing on LocalScale. So the farmer's market manager, then you have the marketplace manager. So that's everything else you want to trade. So if you're trading services or tools or whatever. You have this local currency manager, so every bioregion can also create its own currency. So seeds is this global currency that really, I think when it's fully mature, seeds will be kind of that interchange currency between other mature bioregions that have their own currency. So it's like how you get from one bioregion to another might be through seeds. So seeds might be that connective tissue. But also there's a baked in utility with seeds because as we were showing earlier with that harvest, the more you use seeds, the more you're transacting with it, the more of the harvest you get. So some communities might say, actually, it's better for us to use seeds because it's better than free. So maybe we won't create our own currency. But some communities might find creating their own to be super valuable. So you have a tool to be able to do that. You have a tool for your eco-stay manager. So whilst our bioregions are providing food, we also need to provide our other basic needs of lodging and housing. Right? So between these different marketplaces, the idea is we can meet all of our needs within bioregions. And when that's true, then we don't need empire money anymore. Once there's enough places where we can get housing and food and seeds and all the other things in our regular marketplace, right? Now our currencies that we're creating are real. So that's why Seeds hasn't really been that interested in taking seeds on a bunch of exchanges and just, hyping it up and getting people to speculate on it. Like that wasn't the point, which is why we didn't really do that. The point was, let's distribute out this currency to the movement. Let's recognize that movement. And then let's start using our own marketplaces and trading with each other and entering into this new paradigm, right? It's not just about trading in and out of dollars. But That's also an important function, especially in transition. Okay, so EcoStay Manager is being able to put up your housing and stuff. Seed Exchange Manager is for your seeds, literal seeds. So not the currency seeds, the more important seeds, the biological seeds, the stuff that goes into the earth and creates new biological life and diversity on this planet and feeds us. And this is why we name seeds seeds, because seeds are so freaking important. And we're gonna have this really cool thing where if you do set up your seeds exchange here, then you're going to earn seeds. So it's called the Seeds for Seeds program. All right, so I'm actually going to show you what all of this would look like when you're looking at your dashboard. So now you can go to your dashboard, and I have all those things on. So that's the first thing, is you would want to go to those tools and turn on the ones you want. And then when you do, they're going to be here in your dashboard. So now I can go to my farmer's market setting, go to my vegetable inventory, and now I got, right here. It's so beautiful and simple, right? So I can put in my price per weight right here. So I'm saying $100 a pound, and I've got 4 pounds of them. These are really awesome tomatoes. So, you got to pay top dollar for these tomatoes. Otherwise, I'm just going to eat them myself. Joking, but food is accessible. It's basically free because there's so much abundance. Anyway, so now you've got your abundance growing. You can set up your availability right here. Pretty super simple and awesome, right? Same thing with your marketplace. You can come in here and just add a product, be able to put everything in here. You have these general settings at the top of each one of them where you can add things like taxes if you have them, minimum amount per order, etc. Okay, something else I really want to speak to though, before we keep going, is the different integrations. So we're going to bounce back over to here to let you know that yes, I'm talking bad about the Empire currency. However, super important transition tool. So when you're setting up your marketplaces on here, there's actually a Stripe integration. So you can accept credit cards, that Empire money too, for your marketplaces and stuff. So let it be known, you don't just have to use cryptocurrency. And there's the Hypha DAO integration. So if you would like to link your DAO that you've set up for your bioregion or your organization who's selling stuff here or whatever it is, then you can turn it on. You can link your DAO. You can be accepting and using seeds, and there's some other integrations that will continue to come. The team behind LocalScale is like wizards with integrations. That was part of their old startups that they did really, they did so successful with it that the guy who's running this is just like a passion project for him. He just knows the world needs this. Awesome human, awesome team. And if you want to be part of LocalScale, they also have a DAO. So you can come and join the DAO that's putting this tool together. All right, we're going to go back to that dashboard because now I can show you some tokens. So I have my LocalScale balance right here. So I've got a bunch of LocalScale tokens because I've been contributing to LocalScale. So anyone else who wants to earn some LocalScale tokens, come and contribute. And you can contribute by setting up your market and actually using it. And more people buy and sell and trade with you, the more you're going to be able to earn local tokens. And probably for about the first 1 million people who are joining LocalScale are going to be earning tokens. And then at that point, this is the current tokenomics, but it'll be up to the community really. There's never going to be transaction fees on LocalScale. Well, there might be if the community votes for it, but currently we don't think that's going to be the case. But instead what it might be is that you need to have a certain amount of LocalScale tokens staked into your account in order to access a certain number of free transactions. So a very similar thing to what Seeds is doing, is that in order to access this network and take advantage of it, you need to have tokens staked. So for our initial community, the ones really getting this going, helping us work out bugs and stuff, you're not going to ever have to pay for this. If you come in and earn enough, well, unless you guys vote to make it, you have to stake more expensively, then maybe you might have to buy more in the future. So I can't speak to the future governance, but the idea is that you're showing up early, you're helping make this work, you're earning enough LocalScale that you're earning the share that you would need, and maybe even additional, and hopefully even so if we are really successful here. And then you also have your seeds balance. So it shows you your seeds currency because that's one of the main currencies you can use on LocalScale. All right, so then you also have your EcoStay settings, where you can add a property, etc. Your seeds exchange, where you can set up your different seeds, your Hypha DAO, where you can set that up, etc. So you can come here, you can explore LocalScale, and kind of get an idea of this platform. It's super cool. One more thing I want to show you. I'll actually take you to the global marketplace. See, give me an idea what a marketplace looks like. So every bioregion will also have its own marketplace. So that's really the concept behind LocalScale is bioregional coordination. But we also have this global marketplace. But the global marketplace is limited to digital stuff. So as you see here, these are all just digital offerings because we're wanting to localize our physical communities. The whole idea of growing food in California and shipping it to North Carolina or whatever just does not make any sense from an ecological or regenerative perspective. So what we're thinking is how do we localize all of our physical needs, our material needs in our bioregions? So that's really what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'll show you some bioregions. You can come here and explore all the different bioregions, give an idea of what different bioregions are up. So maybe we're going to come here to France, see what's going on there. Oh, there's a lot of different organizations here. So you can come in here and check them all out, see the different stats about it, what's going on in it. Wow. And see all the different organizations and what they're offering and what they're up to, right? That's fun. And they are managing their local currency for this bioregion. So that's really fun. So there's a different organization for that. But then there's also different farmers and different businesses. Looks like some people selling some wine and stuff. So anyway, that's kind of fun. So that's really the idea is you can come here, you can see the bioregion, the boundaries of it. And essentially how it's working now in our initial stages is there's not necessarily clear demarcation of what makes a bioregion yet. So we're letting that be up to community interpretation in the beginning stages until we find a standard that we can align around. So if you're the first one in your bioregion to join, you actually get to mark out the territory. And highly recommend you actually type in, the bioregion in your community, try to learn and mimic, what is being expressed as maybe the bioregion that you're a part of, and then draw out those boundaries. And then everyone else who joins after you, if they're in that bioregional boundary, they would join that bioregion, right? So that's basically the idea behind LocalScale, is using all of this technology to create new economic systems on a bioregional level to localize our new games and realities and civilizations we're creating. Yeah, okay, that was a lot, right? Wow, okay, we're gonna come on back here now. Okay, so just a real quick recap here. These are all the different ways you can play the game. So you can just show up, super low dedication, and give and get gratitude. So, hey, appreciate you for whatever you did, for inviting me to this system, as simple as that. Okay, you can do a quest. Check out that playlist. Check out all the different quests. Please, if you've been contributing to the Renaissance or Seeds or any of our movement lately, please, please, please come and claim your contributions. That is what this movement is here for. It is here to represent us. So yes, please get recognized for all the beautiful stuff you've done. Join a DAO if you feel like getting in further. Start a new one or get yours brought into the movement if you're already part of an organization or village or a bioregional movement or whatever. There's so many different structures of people doing awesome stuff together that could be recognized in one of these DAO structures, right? Or go ahead over to LocalScale and start trading with each other and helping make our bioregional communities and this new regenerative civilization we're building real. Help us meet all of our needs. Because once enough of us join, we don't know what that number is, but we think it's around like 150 to 300 in a bioregion. Once there's just that many, then you can really start getting all your basic needs met. And then you can start thriving together. And then we can step out of the games we know are no longer working and step into games that are governed by the people that we're actually a part of, that we can continue to evolve them, and that they're designed to be regenerative and sane and just, cutting out all the middlemen that are just parasiting on society. Anyhow, yeah, all right, so now we're going to dive into a little bit of the tokenomics and what is that you're actually claiming here. So, in order to do that, I'm going to take you to the blockchain. So let's go pull that up. So basically what I did here, and you can find the link to this down below, this is how you can explore the blockchain. I'm going to show you how I got here. So I went to my account. So the Alchemist of Seeds. So I was able to put in my title, Boop, boop, boop. Anyway, I can see all the different tokens I'm holding, which I'm holding a lot because I've been part of this thing for a while. But I'm going to come down. I'm going to find my actual seeds. So I know which one's my seeds one because it's the same number that are in my wallet. There's a bunch of different seeds here because we've created a bunch of test accounts, and so don't be confused by my account. You'll probably just have one that's called seeds. So I'll click on this, and you know it's the official seeds account if it says token.seeds. If it says anything else, then it's not the official seeds, right? And if it has, the 3.14 billion total tokens. So now I'm going to walk through kind of what seeds did and how it got started. So this is the most important thing of any token. So if you're thinking about joining any crypto project out there, or any token out there, really the most important thing you want to do is actually go to that token, go to the blockchain just like this, and explore who has that token, because that might tell you a lot about that product, that community, and what's happening there, right? So that's what I'm going to do here, is I'm going to actually walk through all the top holders of seeds and explain what's going on, right? So at one point in time, this group of humans came together, said, hey, let's build a new financial system for our Renaissance. It needs to be free, it needs to be instant to use, it just needs to be better than money. Because if people are going to use it, it needs to be better than money. Okay, let's create an arbitrary amount of seeds. Because when you're first creating a token, it is all arbitrary. You're just kind of making things up. So we're making things up. We made up an arbitrary number of 3.14 billion. Why did we do this? I guess it wasn't entirely arbitrary. Because we had an intention of getting seeds to $1 value each. And then we looked at the market, we looked at our potential, we saw what other projects were valued at, and we thought, okay, success at that rate would actually fit about this in the project, which would mean we're about a $3 billion project. So that's how we came up with this, why we did 3 billion instead of, 3 million or, 300 billion or whatever. Is we saw that as a reasonable sized market cap for this go live point. If we've got 1 million people who are part of this, we're really representing our movement. 3 billion felt really good to us. So that's why we picked this number, because we thought we were trying to get to $1. 3 billion feels right. Why we picked 3.14 is we chose pi. We're really into, sacred geometry and numbers and numerology and that whole world. So we chose pi. Anyhow, so that's how we came up with 3.14 billion. So we're going to talk about where these seeds went. 33% of them, a third, so only, about 1% of them so far have been given out, were sent to this gift.seeds account. And all the .seeds account are official seeds accounts. So these are accounts that are held by the entire community, by the system itself. So you see all the top 8 accounts are all system accounts, which are holding the vast majority of tokens right now, right? Because after that, you get down to like 0.5%. So the gift.seeds was an account that was set up to do exactly that, gift seeds out into the movement. So this is still a big pool of seeds. And this is what we were giving out in those campaigns. So at the beginning of this, we showed you all those different proposals that we were voting on. That's what was happening. Is when we got started, we said, okay, we have this gift.seeds account. We're going to run proposals where people can put up a vote to say, or put up a campaign is what we're calling it, to say, hey, we're going to give out seeds for people who go and plant trees. Or we're going to hold an event. Or we're going to do a better than free, educational experience. And if you go through this, then we're going to gift you some seeds, etc. So there's so many different proposals that came up in so many different awesome ways that we gifted seeds out to incredible humans doing incredible things. And actually, I'm going to take you to our dashboard. So if you go to joinseeds.earth, you come click up here. You can go to the dashboard. Now, some of this is broken because when we went to that pause phase I was telling you about, we lost the people who were working on this because there wasn't a way to accurately reflect their contributions. So this dashboard does need a little bit of help, but it's still frozen in one particular place in time. So you can learn a few things from it. So it says there's some, proposals being voted on now. That's not actually true. It's not updating the gratitude flows. It's not updating, new people being invited. So don't trust a lot of this. The only thing that's really accurate is what's been sent out so far and where they've gone. But the price is currently not active either. So dashboard's broken, needs to be fixed. Such is the way of a decentralized system. But this is just a dashboard, so this isn't how we would treat the blockchain and the code itself. That stuff is super secure. This was just running on some open source software tool we built to make a dashboard. So anyway, we didn't find it that important, but it was helpful at the time. All right, coming back in. So we gave out a whole bunch of seeds and campaigns, 85 million. but that's a far cry away from the billion that we still have left to give out. And we gave out 30 million for alliances and 10 million in referrals. And I'll talk about each one of those accounts as we get going, but that just gives you an idea of how many we've distributed so far. Then the community as a whole sold 36 million. So this is when you went to, joinseeds.com, you clicked in here to buy seeds. I'm not going to walk you through that right now. So if you click on the buy seeds in your app, you can go through that. So that's people who actually bought seeds and helped contribute capital to the ecosystem, which is how we really were able to build these tools so well, because then we were able to actually pay developers and builders to be able to dedicate full time and pay for the servers and make all of this magic happen. So that was really awesome. And then it shows you how many seeds are planted. So then, knowing all of this information, we're able to say how many seeds are actually in circulation. So this is how many tokens are available to be traded on exchanges, or to be used to buy food on the marketplace, or to be sent as invites, or anything like that. So there's only 136 million seeds. So a tiny number compared to the 3 billion that are existing, right? So then when you add that together, seeds are last being sold at about 10 cents. There is no exchanges for seeds when this video is being made. That very well may change and is intended to change in the future. But currently there's no exchanges where seeds are really being traded. But they were being sold for about 10 cents at the last price. So when you put that together, it says the entire market cap of seeds, how many seeds are in circulation, is 13 million, which is a really tiny number compared to other projects. So if you go to CoinGecko, you can see some of the other cryptocurrency projects. And then over here, you see what they're worth. So Bitcoin's worth 581 billion. So what project would we be at with 13 million? Let's go down to page 5. Okay, so these are 45 million. All right, let's go to page 7. Okay, 25 million. Okay, all right. We think we got to keep going. Let's go to 9. Okay, all right, so there we go. So this is saying that seeds is around 840 plus in the cryptocurrency world. So that means some like knockoff one of Doge. It's not even the actual Doge is worth more than what seeds is currently being valued at. So it just gives you some type of idea of seeds. So what I'd recommend is, if you're really trying to figure out, okay, how much is seeds worth, come look at seeds as a movement, the organizations, who's part of it, the tools that were built, and come explore the different projects, see who's comparable, and then putting those two together, you might be able to speculate how much seeds might be worth. But that's the best we can do right now, because we don't have any other way of coming up with a real value. But currently, what we are selling seeds at and how many have been sold and are out there, saying we're worth about 13 million. All right, so this is where we were tracking what we were sending seeds out for. So you sent a whole bunch of seeds for local food project and reforestation and social equity and land care, as well as education. That was our biggest by far, and this was helping people understand what was going on here. There's so much to learn in the regenerative movement. So that was a big focus on our initial distribution of tokens. A little bit for depollution, a little bit for healthcare and healthy water. So these are the main categories too that Seeds was interested in funding. Cleaning up our earth, depolluting it, educating and helping people understand the movement and get involved. Healthcare, healing ourselves, because the healthier we are, the more effective agents and players of this infinite game are going to be, right? So fantastic. Healing our water, so critical. Our water is so vital and important. So like funding the healing of water, we need to do that. Land care, local food, reforestation, social equity, we get all of that. So we had 97 campaigns be successfully funded. We had 450 plus organizations join. And then we had 8 primary organizations who are helping organize Seeds itself, which we talk about a couple of those at the end of this video. And currently we have 0 bioregions because we haven't got those things set up just yet. And this again stopped working because it isn't actually at 0. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an idea. We've had about 10,000 people join. All right, so now let's come back to that blockchain. And I want to talk on something real quick, because we had about 10,000 people join, but we only have about 7,600 holders. So that means about 2,500 people who joined are not holding any seeds anymore. And I want to speak to a part of that because a part of that was bots. We were having some bot troubles at one point for some silly bug that we had where they were able to exploit just a small amount of money. It was ridiculous. It was like 1,000 new accounts was able to steal like $5 worth. So we ended up losing like $15 of value, and there's like 2,500 bots or something that came in. So this is probably a more accurate number of actual humans. I want to deflate that number and talk reality. I think we've got about 7,600 actual humans who are, part of this. Still 7,600 awesome humans, right? 7,700. All right, so we're going to talk about a few more. So that's the gift.seeds. That was the main account that's been distributing tokens for campaigns. Still has a lot more left to give out. So now where the next step with this is for DAOs to get going and saying, okay, we're established, we have a community now, and we would like some seeds for all the stuff we've been doing for the movement, and then we can start running campaigns. So a bioregional DAO, for example, can get set up and say, hey, we're the bioregion in Katua, that's the one that I'm in. We want some seeds to give out to people for doing any of those 8 things listed on the bottom there. So reforestation and education and cleaning up our waterways, etc. We want 10 million seeds to give out to our community. So then that proposal would come to the Seeds Collaboratory, and the community of all the citizens of Seeds could vote on it. And if it gets a yes, then that organization then gets those seeds, and then they manage it out. So that's where we kind of broke as a global ecosystem, is as a global ecosystem, we were trying to manage local affairs. Didn't really work. We needed local organizations to manage their own affairs, right? So that's what we needed to create, and that's what we've done, and that's where we're at today, is to now start re-gifting out these seeds for organizations to be able to distribute them how they see most effective. All right, one more thing about gift.seeds is how we ended up with about 33% and a little over $1 billion was we wanted to give around 1,000 seeds to the first 1 million people. At least that was some of the original thinking that went into that original distribution. But of course, it was always up to the citizens how to start distributing these. But that was roughly the idea, is that the first 1 million people to get invited to seeds would get 1,000 tokens on average. Some are higher, some are lower, depending on what the quest is or what it is you're doing to get that invite. But that was generally the idea behind the campaigns, was let's figure out a beautiful way to invite people into this movement. Maybe it's, hey, come join a gardening day, get an invite to seeds, and you got like 500 seeds or 1,000 or whatever it was for showing up for that gardening day, or for coming and learning about seeds. That's where the whole Better Than Free education came from. We had this beautiful Tools of the Regenerative Renaissance course that was sponsored by Seeds and gave out seeds to the educators and the participants of it. So, a bunch of beautiful campaigns like that we had talked about. But the idea that I wanted to pass here is that it was for about 1,000 for the first 1 million people is what this account is here to serve. And then after that is when the harvest and everything kicks on, which is what we've talked about. So then the other way to get a hold of seeds right now would be to either earn them through showing up and earning gratitude and picking up a role or contributing to the community in a bunch of different ways. And one of those ways is to buy them. So that's how you can contribute financially to the movement and help the movement out that way, is by actually buying seeds. And then you could be buying them from a couple of the different DAOs that have earned them. All right, so that's basically gift.seeds. Okay, the next biggest account is the bank.seeds. So this is holding 20% of the total supply, and they're basically just locked away here. Bank.seeds won't really come into effect until after the harvest. And then it's up to the citizens for what really goes on here. So we'll probably see a few proposals for what we can do with this bank. But some ideas would be that we can use it for providing liquidity on secondary markets. So when we actually are ready to go list on exchanges, maybe it's the bank who's actually setting up some liquidity pools. That's some technical DeFi stuff, but long story short, this is going to make it so that people can trade between seeds and other accounts and other currencies more effectively. So maybe that's one thing, and then maybe it's collecting fees for that, and then maybe those fees are going back to the seeds citizens and residents and whatever. So, what we do with our bank, maybe we're giving out interest-free loans or whatever. It's up for the citizens of seeds to be able to use these seeds in a manner that best serves us. But currently there's no proposals up for how to actually use that yet. Okay, we have this escrow.seeds. So these are seeds that are in escrow. So this is about how many seeds we've given out to reward everyone who's got us to the point today. which was an enormous journey. We started this in 2017, so it's 2023 now, so the last 6 years of contributions. So far, 17% of the total supply has been given out. So this has mostly been given to Hypha contributors. And the seeds that we have for the rest of the major contributors who might not have already been recognized, that's what the allies.seeds account is. So there's still 346 million left to give out to other organizations who are going to contribute to seeds and who may have already contributed but not gotten a contribution request yet, or a distribution yet. So also, once the seeds DAO is ready, people are going to be able to make proposals for their DAO to say, hey, we want to ally with seeds. And that means you want to bring some value. So for example, LocalScale did exactly this. They got a distribution of seeds for allying with seeds by having this platform that they had built and then integrating seeds in our community into it. So if you're an organization out there and you're like, yep, I want to join the movement, I want to bring our tools, we want to bring the technology we built, the resources, whatever forms of capital you want to bring to the movement, you can come and make a request for that organization, and then that organization can then earn those seeds. And then they can sit in that organization's treasury, and then maybe that's what's backing the tokens you're giving out. So now as a new DAO is getting started, and they're not worth anything, they can say, okay, well, we want to do marketing for the whole seeds movement. They maybe put together a video, and it's an awesome video. We're like, yes, we love your skills. They use that video as their proposal to the community, be like, hey, we want to make more videos. Can you give us 1 million seeds or whatever, or 10 million seeds? Okay, and then if the community says yes to that, then they have 10 million seeds sitting in their account, and it's going to move from allies.seeds then to the escrow.seeds. Because all the ones that are going for alliances like that are then going into escrow. So that an organization can't just receive a whole bunch of seeds, say that they're going to add value, and then just sell them on the market, right? So that's what the escrow thing is for, is we're saying we want you to align interests for you to be connected to the community, but we don't just want you to show up, ask for a bunch of seeds, and then sell them and leave. So this way you own those seeds, but they're still in escrow. And this is how we've kind of aligned the interests of the community to not just sell them on the open market and leave. So anyway, an alliance is saying you're allying with us. We're tying our interests together for the long term. And the escrow will start being distributed after the harvest. So after we've got to that, we have a viable economy, we've got critical mass movement, then we can start releasing those escrow seeds. And then it doesn't matter if they sell them on the open market. In fact, we probably want that to happen at that point, so that there are enough sellers for the buyers that are coming in, because at that point we'll be growing rapidly. So we'll need people to be selling tokens in order to not have that price shoot up. I know some people in the speculation game just want that, but if that's what you're into, there's other cryptocurrencies for that. This one's wanting to be a viable actual currency for day-to-day use, and we don't want it to be, the roller coaster ride of currencies. So we want it to be balanced, and in that case, we actually need people selling seeds. So that's where the escrow seeds are going to come in. And the allies.seeds is that account, still holding 11%. Still a lot of seeds left to give out to a lot more new allies joining us. Okay, so let's keep going. The next one is the refer.seeds. So these ones automatically are given out. So if you refer people, they become a resident and citizen. These are also just going to be sent to escrow.seeds, but under your name. So the allies.seeds are for organizations that go under their name in escrow, while the refer.seeds are for individuals that go under their name in escrow. So the same concept with referring people. It's not giving you a whole bunch of seeds that you can just turn around and sell and use immediately. It's giving them to you in your escrow account, which is tying your interests together so that we have value locked up. And this is where the vast majority of my seeds are. And you can actually come to this escrow.seeds account. And you can explore it. You can view the contract tables, and you can see the locks, and then you can go through and see how many seeds each person has. So everything is super transparent. That's why the blockchain is the blockchain, and you can see every type of every event that happened in this account since its inception, which is really freaking cool. And now you can see a little bit why central banks and nation states might not really like blockchain. They're not protecting investors. I mean, it's a good story. But I think the real story is I think if their accounts were as transparent as these accounts are, people might ask too many questions. Wait, why is that nation state sending 10% of its budget to that military contractor? Like, that doesn't make sense. Maybe we should ask questions. So that's where our new civilization's going. If we're going to really trust a currency, we need to see where it's going, who's holding it, what's actually going on behind these closed doors, right? So there are no closed doors here. Okay, let's keep going. So the refer.seeds, you can see how they've been given out too, etc. All right, the next biggest account is Hypha.seeds. So Hypha's earned a bunch of seeds, both from the allies.seeds and the milestones, which I'll talk about, that it's holding on to. So the Hypha account itself is holding on to 122 million seeds, so it's got about 3.9% of the total supply. Keep in mind, this is the total supply before that go live event. So this is not the total supply, forever and always, which would be a really bad thing. If one organization had, 3.9% of a currency that's supposed to be a global currency, that I wouldn't consider that a good thing. That is way too much wealth concentration for a potentially, multi-trillion-dollar currency if it ever got that size, right? So we needed to have a mechanism where we're creating more and, we're not just doing super wealth concentration. Because unfortunately, a lot of the top cryptocurrencies, there are single organizations who own 3, 4, 5% of them, sometimes more, which is a really ridiculous proposition to say this could be a global currency, owned. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the point is, Hypha's holding about 3.9% for all the work that it's done so far. Okay, now we have this milestone.seeds account. So this is what's left for the seeds community to help it get to go live. So now it's, petitioning other organizations, and this is where the Seeds Collaboratory actually came from. The community organized that DAO. So Hypha stepped away from that job when the citizens voted down Hypha's proposal to get the next milestone distribution, because the community's like, hey, actually, people outside of Hypha are really helping make this happen. So multi-year journey into centralized governance. It was pretty wild. But long story short, Hypha wasn't receiving the milestones anymore, and a new organization needed to get formed. So this is the Seeds Collaboratory we see today, to then take over the milestones. And this is to help Seeds as a whole ecosystem organize and coordinate itself to get towards go live. So this is the seeds left to pay out the Seeds Collaboratory for achieving that. And then when these seeds are paid to the Collaboratory, these are liquid. So these don't go to escrow. They go into circulation. And then these are the ones that are sold on the Seeds website. So when people are coming and buying seeds, they're buying the milestone seeds that organizations earned. So up until now, you've actually been buying them from Hypha. So Hypha earned a bunch of seeds for completing milestones, and then it was selling those seeds in order to get some other forms of capital to then pay developers and people who needed not seeds, they needed something else. We were holding Bitcoin for a long time there and switched it over to a bunch of different currencies. Again, long journey. So the milestone seeds are here to give out to the Seeds Collaboratory for them to sell so that they have a treasury to be able to start paying people in, different forms of currency. Okay, then we have system.seeds. Now these are seeds that are tied up in the system, likely with invites and mass invites that we had put together. So these are invites not claimed, I think a lot of them. And other times it's for accounts in the system to be able to have bandwidth on the network. So as I was telling you, in order to be able to make transactions, you need to have currency locked up. So this is currency that's locked up in order for the system to be able to make transactions itself too. And those are 27 million. They represent part of the seeds that are planted. So there's 20 million seeds planted. So there's 27 million in that account. So 20 million of that are planted seeds as well. So that's kind of all the seeds that are in system seeds. Then we get down to some of the bigger DAOs. So the Seeds Embassy is a group that was set up to be kind of like the embassy for the Seeds civilization. So they're interfacing with other nation states and universities and doing awesome stuff, and representing seeds is kind of like an embassy capacity. So they got a large distribution of seeds to reward that effort. And you start getting down into more DAOs. So if you want to learn more about these, you can go and find their DAOs oftentimes. I think down here is when you start getting into individuals, which I think like the highest individual I see here is probably here at 0.1%. So that's kind of like our whale category here, is in the 0.1% area. And these are people who invested a lot of other forms of capital. So this is really what helped seeds get going at the beginning. So all right, that gives you an idea of where all the seeds are in the ecosystem. So that's really what's important, is when you come to an account or come to any crypto, it's like, okay, who's holding this? Who's really benefiting? You know, like, is this just a whole bunch of, two investors are holding all the tokens and now they're dumping on you? Like, what's going on here? So I think this is really important before you really get involved in any ecosystem, to come and understand, where the tokens are and who's doing what. And then also when you're here, you can come to transfers and you get to see literally every single transfer that's happening real time. So today is the 21st of July. You actually saw the transaction I made when I sent my wife 5 seeds in the video earlier. So that's pretty cool. You get to come here and see that right there. And then you get to see everything that's happening with seeds. So if you want to come get an idea of everything that's happening in the ecosystem, you can. So again, everything's super transparent. You can see everything that's going on. So pretty wild stuff there. All right, hopefully that was helpful. So this gives you an idea of the blockchain. I know it's kind of archaic looking, and if we keep going and keep being successful, Seeds might have its own explorer at some point, so we can explore the blockchain in a perspective that makes sense to us. Because what's really cool is the blockchain is like the internet, why an explorer, which is the website I'm looking at, isn't the blockchain. It's just one way of looking at it. So it's like a website on top of the internet, but there's actually like 10 different block explorers that I could use that have different interfaces like this for exploring the blockchain, right? So that's what's really cool about these decentralized systems, which is why we have multiple wallets too, because if one wallet goes down, we have backup wallets so that we're not dependent on any one organization or website in order to access our new economic systems. So that's one of the other benefits of using all of this fancy technology, is that, for example, if eosauthority.com and the company behind it just decided to not maintain this website anymore, there's other websites we can go to keep exploring the blockchain. All right, so that gives you a little bit of an idea of where the tokens are. And now I just want to dive into the tokenomics. So if you want to learn the most about tokenomics, there's a bunch of different videos I highly recommend watching. We get in the difference between like gold, dollars, Bitcoin, and what the seeds currency will look like. So it really helps you wrap your head around how we can create new types of money and how to think about that process of creating new types of money. So if you're really into all of that, you can go check those videos out. All right, so what I'm going to attempt to do right now is to give a quick overview from my perspective on where Seeds is at as a currency. Now, I want to just say this is just my perspective, so I might have some things not totally accurate here because Seeds is an evolutionary currency, meaning it's governed by the citizens of Seeds. So some of those who have been, participating and paying attention, they've seen a lot of proposals and a lot of different ideas and the integration of those ideas into even better proposals of how we might evolve Seeds going forward. And I'm going to touch on a few of those ideas here. However, none of those proposals become truth until the citizens of Seeds actually vote on them and pass them. So I'm only going to be speaking to what's already been proposed and passed historically. So what is the current truth of the Seeds currency, at least from my perspective, and not talking about all the ways it could evolve into the future, because that's infinite. Our game is an infinite game, and we can continue to improve on this currency model and make it better. So I'm going to speak to a little bit about where it is right now. So when we first got Seeds started, we had this idea of the 3 different phases of the Seeds currency, where the first phase, it's this optimal store value. So in this first stage, there's a fixed supply of seeds. So we went over that just recently, where there's 3.14 billion seeds, right? And that's the only number of seeds that there is, and we're not creating any new seeds right now in this first phase. So as there's an increased demand for it, there's a fixed number of supply. Under those dynamics, we would expect the value, the price of that item to increase. That's not to say this is the graph it's actually going to look like. We're not saying that, there is a guarantee the value will go up. There's a lot of challenges and anyway, I'm trying not to make forward-looking statements. So please don't hold me on this. This is just a graph giving an idea of what, optimal situation might look like. And of course, in order for seeds to have a US dollar value, it needs to be on exchanges where people can trade it from seeds to dollars. Or there needs to be a market where people are doing that back and forth. Currently, our community hasn't really focused on putting seeds on exchanges because our interest was instead to give out those 3.14 billion to our movement first before we really focus on exchange listings, which will happen in that second phase. However, seeds is a decentralized currency, which means literally anyone can take seeds and put it on exchanges, which at one point Hypha did do that. Hypha did have a bunch of seeds and a bunch of Ethereum, and they said, hey, we're going to do an exchange listing and put a seeds and Ethereum exchange. It did that, and for a lot of reasons, it decided to take down that exchange listing that they put up. But anyway, I want to share that because anyone could add seeds to exchanges, and that's the nature of a decentralized currency. However, under this current model, the people I'm talking to aren't interested in doing that and putting their effort towards listing it on exchanges until this second phase. And that might change. So anyway, again, just my perspective right now. Hopefully I'm not muddying the waters here. So the idea behind the first phase was this is our phase for distributing out our currency to the movement and redistributing wealth. So people who are putting in a bunch of time, taking in a lot of risk to help get this thing started, because there is a risk that this ends up being worth nothing, right? That there is some value appreciation for that. But this is fundamentally different than, say, Bitcoin, which Bitcoin says it's always going to have a fixed supply in the future. So if you somehow obtain, 5% of the total supply of Bitcoin today, that's 5% essentially, there's already like 90% of Bitcoin distributed. That's 5% forever. And we believed that doesn't actually make for a very regenerative economy because that would just have insane wealth concentration happening. So that's really what a big reason why we have this second phase that we'll move into is once we say, hey, we have a mature enough economy, we've got 1 million people, trading seeds or wanting to use seeds, and we've got 1,000 businesses or whatever it is, because this point is actually just going to get triggered by a vote from the citizens. So I can't tell you exactly when it's going to happen. I'm just going to tell you kind of roughly how I believe it's going to happen. But at the end of the day, how it's actually going to happen is a proposal will go up by any citizen to say, hey, I think we're ready for stage 2. I think we're ready for us to switch the go live, and go live means we start the harvest. And the harvest is when we start creating new currency to meet new demand. So instead of the value just going up when there's new demand, because there's a fixed supply, now when there's new demand, we can create new supply. But not entirely, and we get to tweak this as we will. So the second phase, we still expect some value appreciation because we're not creating so much new supply that we're meeting all of the demand and more so that maybe there's a value drop. That might not even happen until the optimal unit of account phase, so the third phase. So in the second phase, this is when the harvest starts. So we start creating new currency and distributing it out, right? And that's when we say it's the optimal medium exchange phase, because this is the phase where you're going to get rewarded for using it. So now instead of dollars, which, dollars are currently one of the best currencies in the world because they're not tracked, they're free to spend, they're instant when I hand it to somebody else, no one knows if I'm holding this dollar or not, So dollars are a nice currency from that perspective, not a nice currency because they're still losing their value, they're still subject to central banks' whims and those types of things. Okay, so the optimal medium exchange phase is when it's better than free to spend your seeds currency. So in the first phase, today, right now, you can send seeds around for free. In the medium exchange phase, when you're sending it around, you're actually earning more of the harvest for doing that. So this is when we say it's actually an optimal medium exchange. It's better than any medium of exchange that we currently know of because we don't currently know of a medium exchange that's better than free to use. So this is a big innovation that Seeds has been working on and working towards. Okay, so say that's really successful, and a lot of people are like, "Yep, that makes a lot more sense," and our community keeps growing. This is where the third phase then comes in. So the third phase is after the second phase has happened, and the second phase is we've learned now. How does that supply and demand dynamics work? How much more supply do we have to create for the demand that's happening? we're going to have so much information about how our economy is operating that the third phase is when we want to create a stable currency. So instead of it still having this value appreciation that you see here, the third phase is when we want a stable currency that's holding the value of itself. Now, it still looks like it's going up relative to US dollars, but that's because US dollars are going down in value. So it still might be going up relative to national currencies that are losing value, but what we're intending for it to be is to hold stable. So instead of, 50 years ago, you could buy a house for 50 grand, and now that same house is like $400,000. I'm speaking to, American prices here. That's not because the house is just all of a sudden way more valuable. That's because the currency used to value that house is way less valuable, right? So what we're wanting with an optimal unit of account is something that, if an apple is worth 1 seed, and 50 years from now, that apple's still relatively worth 1 seed. Maybe we're not even valuing apples in food because maybe food is so abundant and fee-free. So maybe that's a bad example. Now we can say maybe a car. So maybe a car is worth, 20,000 seeds today. We want it to be worth, similar to that minus the depreciation of the car in the future. So that's really what a unit of account would optimally do, is not lose its value, not really gain value, but stay stable. So here's a graph kind of showing a couple different examples of that. Is you have your constant seeds, which is what we're talking about in that third phase of seeds, where they're staying stable as the relative purchasing power, where we have like central banknotes and central currencies that are losing their value. So you see them kind of dropping down here, right? We have the current phase of seeds, which we're calling the global seeds right now, and this is a dynamic supply. So you see it kind of going up and down like this. It's fluctuating. Maybe it loses some of its value because the community and the ecosystem's not doing great or whatever, and then more people join and there's an increase in demand or whatever. So it is fluctuating, but not, and it's definitely not intended to fluctuate, similar to like Bitcoin. So this is a, historical Bitcoin graph where there's huge gains in value, then huge drops in value. We want to get rid of that game, because all that game does is it creates a lot of fear, a lot of greed, a lot of, checking your phone to see what the price is, and a lot of wealth concentration, because a small minority is really good at this game. In fact, they're the ones driving this game. And every time it goes all the way up, they make a bunch of money, they sell at the top, they crash the price, they buy at the bottom, they drive it back up, So what you see is over time, wealth tends to accumulate in games that have this wild, decreases in value. So we want to stay away from those games in our ecosystem, because we find them to just concentrate wealth and be generally degenerative as far as the social currency is concerned. But then of course you have right here, this is our real value bar, and this is what we're calling productive regenerative assets, like a food forest. A regeneratively managed food forest is going to constantly be growing in actual value, producing more and more food each year, and this is our baseline. And what we wanted to make sure to do is that there is no currency that is more valuable than a productive food forest. Because that's actually one of the big problems that our currencies have done today. Not necessarily our currencies, but our weird financial system with stocks and all this stuff, is we had all these different instruments, these fake things, these digital things existing on a computer that were more valuable to society than actual life, than actual forests. So we ran into this scenario where it was more, economically valuable to clear cut an entire forest and sell it for stocks on the stock market than it was to sustainably manage that forest forever, right? And that is a big problem. And that is not something we want to repeat with our currencies going forward. Is we want to make sure that real value, like actual food forests and actual regeneration of our planet, always remains most valuable, as more valuable than the digital currencies we're creating. Whew. So that gives you some type of an idea of where we're at. Let me go back to this slide. So we're still in this first phase. We don't have very many exchange listings. However, that could change at any moment. Again, Seeds is a decentralized currency. Anyone can list seeds on exchanges whenever they want. Hypha did that at one point, and it took its exchange listing down for a whole bunch of different reasons. One of them being it just did not have time to manage that, and it was adding way more complexity and people coming in and asking a whole bunch more different questions about, what's the value of it and speculating on it, and it detracted from our main focus of building epic tools, which I'm going to show you right here, and getting the ecosystem built out. Because we didn't want that phase of, hey, we've got seeds listed on exchanges and blah, 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 until we actually had seeds distributed to our movement. And as I just showed you in the tokenomics side, there's still a whole lot of seeds left to give out. So we're still very much in that first phase. So here's some of the different tools we built. We built the DAO tool like I was sharing with you all before. And this is the tool that we can use to start distributing out those seeds more effectively. And then, of course, we needed to get these wallets and everything set up, which we finally are to that point where they're working well and they're actually totally functional and beautiful, that we needed to have as well before we kept moving on that front. And then you see down here, so this is part of a proposal of the evolution of seeds, and I want to speak to this just a little bit. And it's the idea that seeds itself, the currency we have right now, and that's in our wallets, is the global currency. That's the currency that's tying our whole global movement together. So you see that in the light green here, that G for that global currency, right? It's tying everything together. But then in the future, what we're planning is having a bunch of constant seeds that are holding their value, right? So we had talked about that. However, it's really hard to have a constant stable unit of a value for a global economy. So this might happen actually on regional levels. And in this case, those regions were with national currencies. So places that were using euros, for example, that would be one region, or pounds, or yen, or dollars, etc. Right? So then we can have more constant currencies in regions. And bioregions is really where we're headed with this, right? And then the last one is we've got these O, which are open seeds, which are then communities can create their own currencies. And this is what we've been putting out tools to do, is for any village or project or bioregion or community can create their own currencies should they want to, right? So then these are like the evolving currency system going on in the future, is that we'll have this one seeds currency that's kind of tying it all together. We have constant currencies that are holding their value, but these are bioregionally and regionally designed. And then you have organizations who can issue their own currencies as well. And that can happen right here. Using the DAO tools, we've kind of showed you how you have the ability to issue your own tokens, right? And that's what's being represented here. So that's kind of the future of our ecosystem. Isn't one currency to rule them all, but an ecosystem of currencies playing different roles. And that global currency for seeds is meant to tie them all together and have an exchange between them. So for example, if I'm in this village right here and I've got our own currency, well, how do I get over to this village? Well, then I could switch over to the global currency directly and then come on over to here and then switch back into that organization's token. So as long as all the organizations and those constant currencies are tied into the global seeds currency and you can trade between them, then we can always trade with each other. It just takes that extra step, right? So that's kind of where we're headed with all of this, is that the seeds global currency that we've created that's free to use, free and instant to spend, that's the one that would tie them all together. And there also might be an interest in communities to just use seeds as a currency, because it's really complicated to launch your own token and do all the tokenomics for it and manage it and figure out supply and demand and all that stuff. And since they would be better than free to use in that, let's go back to that slide just to show you guys real quick. And if they're better than free to use in that optimal medium exchange phase, then it might just be better for communities to just use seeds rather than going through the process of creating their own currencies. But we don't want to say that's the optimal, because it might be way better for your community to create your own currency, right? All right, hopefully that was helpful, bringing it back to here. So just a real quick summary on the wallet. Lots of things were very important to us. A big one being that social key recovery. So never lose access to your account again. The whole, whoops, I forgot my keys, I'm locked out of my account. We didn't feel like we could create any type of financial system unless we solved that problem, and then we did. We needed a wallet where you can have all of those tokens I was just talking about. So all the different currencies that you're holding, and they needed to be free and instant to spend. So we currently have that. You can have all your different tokens, free and instant to spend. Then we needed a place where you can actually participate in the governance of the ecosystem. And that's when we went about building all the DAO tooling and all that stuff so that you can genuinely be a citizen and participate in the evolution of how this is working in a way that doesn't completely burn out every core member and, break the whole system, which is what we ran into with the whole passport thing that we were doing with this one global place for everyone to show up. That wasn't necessarily working, so that's why we moved to the DAO tools, where we have a bunch of different organs and a bunch of different places for people to show up in the whole ecosystem. So we've kind of been learning how to, evolve an ecosystem. This is a new phase. There's not really a manual out there, although the people have tried to write manuals. They're not necessarily perfect. Now, just to finalize all of this, what Seeds technically is and the value it actually has is in the social function that it plays, meaning that you need to have seeds in your account in order to get these fee-free exchanges. So that's the whole actual technical point of this token. Everything else we've talked about is just all the icing we can put onto the cake of this currency and how we can make it more functional and usable and have more value in our lives, etc. But the actual utility function, which Seeds is technically a utility token, is distributing out bandwidth in our community. So the more bandwidth you need, the more transactions you want to make, the more of this currency you need to have locked up into your account. When new people join and new accounts want bandwidth, they need to lock up some of that currency into their account. So this is what's also going to have a supply drop as our community is growing, because every new member is going to take currency out of circulation. So I told you that 3.14 billion number, right? Well, let's say we had 1 billion people in Seeds. Well, we couldn't before go live because there's only 3.14 billion and every account needs at least 5. And some accounts have, 1 million seeds in them right now. So that would never work. We would never be able to actually technically have 1 billion people in our ecosystem unless we started creating more currency. So that's one of the other things, coming back to this slide here, that's going to trigger that go live phase. Is at some point in the future, as we've grown, there's just going to not be very many seeds to go around, and we're going to need to create more currency in order to keep growing. So that's something that's going to force us to go live, even if we don't feel like the price is ready or something else, right? But ideally, all the other dynamics are there, especially if there's so many people showing up that we're running out of tokens. That'll be a good way to trigger that go live moment. Okay, so hopefully that's just a real quick summary of where we're at and where we're going with the Seeds currency. Then finally, to cap all of this off, this is also governed by the citizens. So this might change. There might be some alterations to this roadmap, but none of those are going to be true until a proposal is made to the citizens and the citizens actually vote on it. And that will happen in the Seeds community space and its DAO, which looks like this. So there'll be a proposal made to the DAO, the Seeds DAO over here. That would be saying, hey, citizens, what do you think? We're going to change it, these different ways. And if the citizens vote on it and pass it, great, we can change our trajectory and where we're headed. All right, hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to pause this so you can stop here and read these slides if you find more value in that. But otherwise, let's keep going. But at the end of the day, we have all of those seeds that we created in the ecosystem to distribute out to all the people who are playing the game. So as you're doing any of these different quests, you could be earning seeds, right? As you go and join LocalScale and you start training, you could be accepting seeds and earning seeds for adding your seeds, your actual seeds, your organic seeds, up for trade. There might even be some promotions that we run that if you're trading on LocalScale, you can earn some seeds as well. But you can earn your LocalScale tokens. You can join other DAOs and start earning seeds. So that's what it's for. They're here to recognize all the contributions to our global movement here. So hopefully that was helpful. That was a lot. So that was me just kind of doing a whole brain dump. Hopefully that wasn't too much. If it was, feel free to leave some comments below, asking any questions that you might have. And hopefully I can get to answering them. I'm going to make a follow-up video answering any of these questions. So I'll be playing the game part 2, just kind of really doing a Q&A, if you will. So ask all the questions below and I'll do a follow-up video. But I'm going to close this off now as we're going to go explore some of the different organizations within the Seeds ecosystem. So it can give you an idea of where you might actually want to join and show up. So that's coming next. All right, for this last section, we're going to dive into a bunch of the different organizations within our movement and give you an idea of what it looks like to join one of these organizations. So if you come to dao.hypha.earth, link in the show notes, you'll be able to see all the different organizations within our movement. And essentially anyone can come and set up a DAO here. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're aligned with Seeds or that they're part of the Seeds ecosystem or that they're being regenerative or anything like this. If you want to set up a DAO, it's just humans coming together to coordinate to do something. But a lot of the organizations that you see here are somehow related to regeneration and creating a more beautiful world. So there's a lot of awesome organizations here. Anything from, there's actual villages here, like here's a 25-acre lakeside regenerative learning center, or the Vilcabamba DAO, which is Vilcabamba is a town in South America, and this town wants to create a new financial system, a new economic system for that community. So this is a DAO designed to do that. Or the Permatours DAO, which is running around doing permaculture tours and events and festivals, and it's a group of people doing that. So many different organizations, and we're going to touch on a few of them right now. So to start off, I'm going to talk about LocalScale because I showed you LocalScale a bunch. So if you saw that platform, and just real quick, we're going to pop over there, give you a reminder of what it looks like. So this was the LocalScale platform. So let's say you're watching this video, you're like, yep, I love LocalScale. I want to help them in some way. I want to help build out the platform. I'm a developer. I want to help go door to door and get people to start using this. Whatever it is, you want to come and support LocalScale, then you might come to, back here, you might come to the LocalScale DAO and come and click on it. So then when you do, if you're not a member, you're actually going to see a Become a Member button up here. But the best place to do is usually to come to their comms channel. So you can actually see their Discord down here, or you can come and get their documentation and learn more about them. But if you're a new member and you're really excited about this, you might come to their community channel, go say hello, and go through this process. So you can apply for membership, come say hello, and they might actually accept that membership, and then you can go through the process of creating a role or a quest or something like that. So let me actually take you back to some of the DAOs that I'm not a member of. So I'm not a member of this festival DAO. Sounds cool though. So you can see the Become a Member button right up here that you would click on if you wanted to request membership of this DAO. All right, let's keep flowing. And you can come and learn some stuff about the DAOs. Right now, as I'm showing you this, we are just getting started. So most DAOs are brand new. They're just getting up and going. They don't have a lot of things happening. So there's no proposals. There's a proposal history on this particular DAO. So that's nice. You can actually come through and see what badges. Oh, there's a medicine festival badge that had been applied for. So this is a lot of fun where you can actually go through as you're exploring. Come back down here to click explore. You can come and see all the different DAOs and what they've done. Okay, so that was LocalScale. We have the Seeds Collaboratory as well. So if you're like, yep, I love seeds and I want to support the stewarding of the health of the seeds ecosystem, as you see right here, the Seeds Collaboratory might be the place for you. So you'd click on that. And then you can come and see the different members. And this one actually does have a lot of proposals and a lot active right now. Wow. So it's got 17 proposals active. And a nice proposal history of 46. So you can come and learn a bunch about an organization, what proposals are passing, what conversations happened, and all the stuff that's happening within these organizations. So this is the really cool part about all this transparency and what's happening here, so we can learn from each other pretty rapidly. But once again, if you wanted to be part of this, then there'd be a Become a Member button, and you can click on it. And then you can join the Collaboratory communication space, which also has a Discord. And come say hi, and they'll figure out how you can actually become a member here. So that's generally the process with any of these DAOs. Is like most of them are open, most of them are allowing people to come and click that Become a Member button and then join their communities and start getting to know the people and say hi. This is my name, this is why I'm excited about your DAO and I want to get involved. So a lot about this movement is about really empowering ourselves and giving us the freedom to act. But that kind of requires that we take those actions. So then, so we have the Seeds Collaboratory, who is stewarding the health of the seeds ecosystem. So again, if you want to support seeds, particularly, this would be the place for you. Say you love these DAO tools and the technology I'm showing you right now, and you're really interested in the DAO and helping the DAO technology evolve or getting it out there, then the Hypha DAO would be for you. This is the DAO that's behind the DAO tooling. And this is the one that has the most history on it. So it's got the most members, a whole bunch of different assignments, and there's a lot going on here that you can come and learn from. So if you went to their proposal history, oh wow, okay, 1,100 proposals. So there's a huge history of trying out the tools, you know, eating our own dog food, as they say, which is such a weird term anyway. How about eating our own garden? Anyway, so if you're into the DAO tools, you know, Hypha would be the place for you. But let's keep exploring. I actually want to show you that ReGen Civics Alliance. So let's look up that one. Here it is. Same process here. If you'd like to become a member, click that Become a Member button. But the ReGen Civics Alliance is a particular DAO that is around an alliance. So I'm actually going to dive into that right now because we're going to talk on a bunch of different organizations that are part of this alliance. So why I mentioned anyone can become, you know, can set up their DAO and be part of this Explore button. So anyone who sets up their DAO with Hypha can join this list right here. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a part of Seeds. It doesn't necessarily mean you're part of the ReGen Civics Alliance or anything like that. So any organization can come and set up a DAO here. Although a lot of them are part of this movement here. But what we wanted to do is we want to have a particular alliance around people who are really focused on how do we take this technology and help land-based projects. So we did a season where we got really more in detail here with what ReGen Civics is doing. But long story short, it's an alliance of organizations, which you see over here, that make up the ReGen Civics Alliance DAO. So each organization sends one representative, and each land project sends one representative to the DAO. And what this does is then it gives us one place that could then fundraise and help make decisions and do coordination capacity for our whole movement. So rather than each land project and each organization all trying to do fundraising on our own in isolation, and it's a lot higher risk. I mean, it's the insanity of saying like we're just gonna birth a heart when the baby is being born in a womb. Like once the heart is ready, you don't just say, you know, minimum viable product, we got to ship it. You know, we need all of those organs. So we need the whole alliance to actually be ready for us to, you know, effectively engage in the world and do all the beautiful things we're trying to do. I'll get into that a little bit more next, but long story short is all the organizations and land projects, we came together, we noticed a common problem. We were spending an enormous amount of time on fundraising, and it wasn't a very good pitch. You know, for example, land projects, if they have one investor who invests a lot into that particular community, that is the foundation for so much conflict. Where people in the community feel, you know, wrong that one person owns so much of the value of that community, or they have so much power. And on the other side of that story, that person might feel, you know, the large investor, they oftentimes feel that, oh, I'm only here for my money, or that's such a deep-rooted one that's caused so many problems. But anyway, we wanted to get rid of that idea. So instead of, you know, an investor investing a lot into one land project, they can instead invest into the whole alliance. And then the alliance invests into the land projects. So then the largest investor in land projects and organizations ends up being this whole alliance, which is then democratically governed by all the organizations and land projects. So it becomes a much healthier situation, or at least that's our thesis. And it becomes a better form of investment because instead of just investing in one land project, which has a lot higher chance for failure, now you're investing into all of these organizations and all of these land projects, which reduces that risk. So that was one of the main reasons we got set up, is in order to have the infrastructure to be able to really seriously fund our movement. So anyway, we'll get into that a little bit more. So we went on a couple seasons of reaching out to different organizations and land projects and running a bunch of trials and figuring things out. And there's a whole bunch of videos that you can go and check out if you want more details. But I'm just going to keep flowing and give you the high-level overview here. So we try to use and learn from nature as much as possible, and I love these analogies on ecosystem creating, because you can look at a human, you know, ourselves. We are ecosystems. We are the collaboration of, you know, 14 quadrillion non-human cells, you know, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and all these little microorganisms, right? As well as all these different organs that have very unique cells for each organ. different communication pathways between and amongst each organ, So how the brain communicates within itself is very different from how the heart communicates within itself, or how the gut communicates, etc. But all of this comes together to form one whole human, or what we like to call an ecosystem. So when we're using the term ecosystem instead of, organization or platform or some of those older terms, this is the way we're really trying to view it, is how do we create this whole ecosystem? Because we need all of these things in order for the body to actually survive, right? We can't just live with a heart, The heart's great, we need that, but we need everything else as well, right? And that was kind of the challenge we were coming up against with all the different organizations, is we could have an organization that's kind of like the heart, or maybe it's, a simple example is you could have a marketing organization that's all about telling the story. Okay, that's the communication, that's like our throat, that's playing a role. So that communication organization tries to go out and raise money, particularly for it. And then it needs a business model about how that communication structure is gonna make money. And then it really diverts away from its main goal of trying to communicate the story now into fundraising and making an investable, organization and all of this stuff. So it kind of diverts from being an ecosystem because we are being trained how to act in isolation. And we can see how that would work if our bodies were like, hey, the heart is all on its own and it's got to petition the whole body in order to get blood for it, and it's competing against the other organs, we would die very quickly. And that's kind of the situation we have right now with every business out there, competing against all the other businesses, etc. So understanding this, we're like, okay, we need to form ecosystems. So that's what the Alliance is all about, is we need all the different organizations, which in this case would be organs, needed for a whole ecosystem, or in this case a human, to thrive and survive. So that gives you kind of an idea. Now maybe I can ground it a little bit more and talk about some of those organizations. So within the ReGen Civics Alliance, which is what you're seeing here, and this is part of the much longer series I keep talking about, so I'm going to get into much more detail. I'll actually play this slideshow, and it's all really beautiful in the larger video because we need a lot more time to really get into depth with it. But I'm just going to give a quick high-level summary of these organizations, and we're going to pretty much breeze through this. So here's all the different organizations. We're going to touch on them one at a time. So Seeds is part of the ReGen Civics Alliance, but ReGen Civics is also part of Seeds. It's a little bit confusing, but Seeds is fully decentralized. Anyone can join it. Why ReGen Civics Alliance is not as decentralized. There is a very clear criteria and very strict criteria for joining the Alliance. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. But anyone can, be invited to Seeds and start accepting Seeds as payment and all of that. So Seeds is a fully decentralized financial and economic system, why ReGen Civics is not, right? I hope that's a little bit helpful. Maybe that's even more confusing. But Seeds as an alliance then is what's providing all the tools. So we can create our new currencies. We can use the wallet for all the different tokens that each one of our alliance organizations is issuing. And this is where a lot of the whole financial and economic and governance system tooling, etc. comes from, is the alliance with Seeds. So they're the ones providing different platforms and different currencies and the like. Then we also have LocalScale. So I was showing you that any organization can then set up their own LocalScale marketplace and start trading for their own currencies and for seeds and all these other tokens, etc. So this is where the platform and the marketplace is, and you can rent out your rooms and your homestays for your villages and all of this stuff. So when land projects are coming together and they're saying, hey, we have all of these assets we want to sell, whether it's the food or your homestay or whatever, LocalScale is that platform for you to be able to use. So this is a local economy and marketplace builder. And this is really important. So what we're showing here is this is an organ, if you will, in our alliance, in our ecosystem. We need tools for local economies and marketplaces. But we're not just limiting it to LocalScale. We're saying we're going to actually take 3. So there is, redundancy in each organ. So 2 other organizations might join the alliance that's offering basically the same thing. So if there's other platforms out there that are doing marketplaces and you can offer your farmers market, homestay, etc., then we're opening up for 2 more alliance organizations to join us. So if we're running through this list and you're like, hey, I've got a startup and I'm part of an organization or a company that's providing these tools, you might consider joining this alliance as well. So we're going to keep going. DAO and Do builders. Do, H is for human, Hellenic, but whatever. Don't confuse yourself with all these silly acronyms. Same concept here. So we're not saying Hypha is the only DAO tooling. There's a lot of different DAO tooling out there. We're super biased towards Hypha because it was built, specifically for this purpose. However, Hypha is also a DAO, so it's kind of driving its own self right now, which is really cool. So we're opening up for 2 more DAO builders, potentially on other blockchains, right, to join the alliance. But either way, DAOs are then those tools that we can use to set up our organizations, make decisions together as a community, actually make things transparent and visible, issue tokens, governance, and all that fun stuff. So what's really nice about the Hypha one is that it's showing you all the organizations you're a part of, the different tokens you have in all the different organizations. You have one place to claim all the rewards for all the different DAOs that you're a part of. So it does help manage a lot of the complexity of having this ecosystem, right? Let's keep flowing. We have open impact. So this is impact coordination. So this is also a place where you can come and you can do messaging and discussion, community management groups and news feeds and project management workflows, etc. But really this is a place to kind of, measure, amplify, and coordinate local impact. So if you're, setting up a DAO for your bioregion and you've got this impact you're trying to have where you're setting up community gardens or you're going out there and planting forests or you're trying to make your waters drinkable again or whatever it is, this is a place where you can coordinate to make that happen and actually connect with people and track that impact and all that fun stuff. Nestr is a very similar tool to that, and they are also integrating into Hypha, which is what I should mention that's part of the alliance is the point of the alliance is that we're all acting as an ecosystem. So when other groups want to join the alliance, we're saying, okay, well, you need to integrate with the alliance. So, for example, we've already partnered with Seeds and Hypha, which have tools like the wallet and the accounts and everything I was showing you. Part of the integration would be, hey, we're going to make all of those old accounts compatible with our technology, which is what LocalScale did by accepting Seeds and making it so the tokens you're issuing through, the Hypha, etc., is used in LocalScale. Similar thing that Nestr is doing for Hypha. So you can then envision your organization and all these different hold-ons and circles. And there's so many different tools taking place in Nestr, but Nestr is essentially, it's for those who are interested in a holacracy or sociocracy, these different types of organization processes. Can be able to use Nestr and do that. So the Kanban boards, workflows, and all this fun stuff. So I call it impact coordination because it's how we actually coordinate the day-to-day efforts of getting stuff done. So this is a platform for doing that. Keep going. Fundraising. So Regen Garden is very regen focused, where you can launch NFTs, which is basically art in a short form, connected to something so that token, which is what an NFT is, might give you special powers. So maybe this is where you can come do your fundraising to say, hey, we got a village project, we want to fundraise, and everyone who buys this particular piece of art is going to get access to our village for, a day or week or lifetime or whatever it is. So this is a platform for doing fundraising in the crypto world and the Web3 world. So once again, one of 3 max. So we're going to have a bunch of different fundraising platforms for our alliance. Let's keep going. So at this point, you're kind of getting an idea of the ecosystem, right? So we have tools for collaborating. We have tools to be able to start creating our new economies and trading with each other. These are all things that land-based projects need. But then they also need other things like how do we actually design a regenerative economy? People might just be completely new to this and have no concept of what it means to, design new types of, economic and financial and governance systems and all this stuff. So Regen Living is an ecosystem helping projects actually go through this process of how do we design regenerative economies. So they offer community training and community design and social architecture and that type of stuff. So these are really important allies, and again, one of 3. So other organizations are going to be coming in here and to be able to ally with us to be able to help groups through that process of actually designing their regenerative economies. We have Universe Land Trust. So in very short form, they're doing so much. Each one of these organizations is, I feel like, I'm not doing them a great service by trying to do this quick overview, but I'm going to keep doing this anyway. What they're helping with is, the big thing that I see, at least, is international legal infrastructure for land acquisition and ownership. So there's a lot to understand about setting up legal entities and how to actually go about doing that and bringing your land into legal ownership and doing it in a bunch of beautiful, unique, interesting ways. So what the universe has actually done is they've set up spiritual ministries. So the Catholic Church, way back in the day when nation states were getting started, they created this special legal structure for them called the spiritual ministry, where they can essentially do what they would like to do without the state coming in there and telling them they can't. So it's a really powerful legal structure for helping us to be able to design new types of economic and financial and governance systems and all this stuff without legacy systems coming in there and trying to have too much say, if you will. So if this is really interesting to you, the universe is actually helping land projects and organizations go through the process of setting up their own spiritual ministries and legal entities and legal structures. They also help with fiat and crypto fundraising and sponsorships and donations and helping understand the crypto Web3 world. So the team behind the universe has been part of, Seeds, Hypha, and these DAOs and all this technology since the beginning. So they really know how all of this stuff works and how it connects to the legal world. They're also really beautiful, awesome humans that care about permaculture, community building, events, and put on incredible events and all that fun stuff. So we would call these, ecosystem support. So if you're setting up your DAO and you need support in doing that, the legal entity and all that stuff, these guys would be for you. Adding new alliances all the time, so bear with me. For example, this alliance that's just getting set up here is about bioceramic domes. So this is actual housing. So where do we live in our land-based projects? So organizations that offer, the built environment. So we'll have organizations and allies that are really focused on that physical side of electricity, housing, water, food, and all of that fun stuff. But that will be the next season where we really focus on these guys. The first season was all about the organizations that are helping groups get started. So that's kind of what you see here. It's all about coordination, making agreements together, doing governance and all that stuff, along with actually finding land, which is what Desa is all about. Is there a marketplace for projects and villages to actually buy, sell, and set up their land and legal support systems? So just like the universe was helping with spiritual ministries, this Desa is helping with more traditional legal entities, bringing our movement a platform for finding, starting, buying, and selling villages. So they help with land discovery and acquisition, buying and selling plots within a village or houses within a village, and legal support for actually setting your village up. So if you're wanting to start a village, but you don't know land yet, we haven't looked for land, or etc., they're brokering those deals and helping people actually find land. And if you have a village and you don't want it anymore and you want to sell it, they're helping people sell land-based villages and projects like this. And they're going through the consultation process to help people understand different legal systems and different areas and jurisdictions they work in, and all this fun stuff. So as you really start seeing, the main allies for this first season that we put together here are really about helping groups get started and go through that process. So Permatours, I love these humans. They're all about festival and project activation support. So Permatours is about doing permanent agriculture tours. So this is actually setting up gardens and building houses and setting up clay ovens and domes and all sorts of freaking really cool stuff. So when you have your land-based project, you're like, yep, we have it. We want to do a gardening day and actually activate our space. This is where Permatours actually comes in. And they've been at the forefront of the seeds movement for a really long time. I think it's been about 4 years now that they've been about part of this. And they've been running around the world doing projects everywhere and living and trading off of seeds in this new currency. So it's really cool what they've put together here. Love these humans and so many others. Okay, we're going to keep flowing. We have the Gaia Spiral Biolab. So this is really about the Latin and Native America movements and the on-the-ground festivals and project support. So very similar to Permatours in that sense, but they're their own alliance within the ReGen Civics Alliance that's focused on Spanish-speaking South and Central America. So this is something else we're going to start having within the alliance is language-based alliances within it. And this is one of those good examples. So Gaia is kind of like the whole ReGen Civics duplicated, but in the Spanish-speaking world. Closer. So this one's really focused on villages and, sovereign communities, if you will. But they're building tools and operating system, if you will, for land-based projects and land-based communities, where they can manage their events, value distribution, issuing other tokens and stuff, visits and memberships, so people can actually spend their tokens to, show up and spend a night there or whatever, and so much more. So Closer is, Web3 native. They're really focusing on the tokens and all of these tools, and how you can then design and coordinate actual physical, beautiful communities with it. So Closer's a really powerful tool, but it's really just getting started. Then we have United Planet, and United Planet I put in this category of orienting new players, although I think they're doing so much more. But this is a group that's going around doing these activations, bringing actual humans together to play the game. And it's such an epic game, and they've kind of redesigned the sustainable development goals, this UN thing with the regenerative goals for the United Planet. So it's kind of like, what does the UN look like if it was regenerative? It's kind of what United Planet is out there doing. But incredible humans keep going through all of these games, which they're running cyclically every single year and orienting, if you will, athletes for systems change. It's kind of what they're calling it. So helping people really understand the breadth and magnitude of our moment today, what's happening, what's possible, what kind of new civilizations can we create. So they're all about teleporting people to the future. Of course, this is a conscious exercise, not a physical exercise. And then helping us actually go through the process of reverse engineering our future. So, okay, let's teleport ourselves to 2030. What does that world look like? And then how do we actually get there? So this is, again, helping land-based projects and communities design what their futures might look like. So this is a really good first stepping stone. If you're completely new to all of this, I highly recommend going to one of the United Planet games and meeting that community and connecting with them. So awesome, incredible humans. And then on that same vein, we have Moral Imaginations, which, let me make some space here, which are all about helping people imagine more beautiful futures, because that's something that's been atrophied in our human condition and our societies today, is our ability to imagine. And that's what's limiting so much of our potential. Like, we are gods who can create any reality that we can imagine, and we often do. So I think that's critically important, that if we keep creating the realities we're imagining, then we need to be making sure we're imagining the realities we actually want to be creating. Which is really what Moral Imaginations is about, is helping us exercise our capacity to imagine more beautiful worlds and what that could actually look like. So this is helping groups, and they're working with, a lot of legacy organizations, city councils and the like, and running around and helping them imagine what that more beautiful world could look like. So when groups are coming together, let's say you are a land-based community, you're like, yes, we got started, we're excited about this, but we have no idea what, we can actually create together. That's where Moral Imaginations can actually come in and help you through a process of imagining what that more beautiful world could look like. Okay, so that's the first round of alliances that we brought in. We've had all these applications for other organizations, filling in similar roles or completely new ones. Because as you see, we've missed a lot of things that land-based projects might need. Again, like housing and food and electricity. So that's what the next season of alliances would be. And if you're really interested in joining this alliance and you're like, yep, our organization's all about helping land-based projects create regenerative realities together, awesome, let's talk about joining the alliance. And you can do that just by leaving a comment below and sharing what you're up to and who you're about. All right, so what is ReGen Civics again? It's this idea that when a complex system is far from equilibrium, we look at our civilization today with all the chaos, small islands of coherence in that sea of chaos have the capacity to shift the entire system to a higher order. And this is coming from a Nobel laureate who won the prize in physics, talking about systems and how they change. And this is exactly what we're trying to do, is instead of trying to, top-down change civilization, we're starting with these small islands of coherence, land-based projects, and then just reimagining what reality looks like, doing that effectively and trying to coordinate to make that happen even more effectively and to learn from each other. So that's a short summary of what we're doing with ReGen Civics. So all those allies came together. We selected 13 projects. There were about 50 different organization or land-based projects that applied for the first season. And if you're a land-based project, please apply. But what we're doing with each season isn't just picking the best projects necessarily. We're picking a diversity of projects that are, different scales, different sizes, different types of, missions and all that fun stuff. So everything from La Gardens Cooperative, which is a 1-acre farm, all the way to Ubuntu, which is a 4,000-acre village, startup city, it's a whole different scales. So very quickly, I'm going to run you through what it looks like to run a season. So all those ally organizations, which you can join any of them, can be helping these land-based projects, which you can join some of them, depending on where you're actually living and if they're open for membership. So all of these structures are different organizations within the movement. So when you go to DAO.hypha.earth, you're finding organizations, you're finding land-based projects, and all of this stuff, right? But this concept is it takes a village to raise a ReGen village. So we're trying to create this alliance to help more groups create regenerative villages. Like this example of Findhorn Eco Village, is one example of an infinite number that we can create. So what we actually do is help groups go through that process of what are they actually trying to create? How are they going to do that together? What's their organization and economic and governance systems, all that fun stuff. Then what's their legal structure? How are they connecting with the old systems? Then how could people continue to create and meet all of their needs? Then how do they actually fund it and get started? And this is pooling all their resources. And then how do they keep playing the game? So it's the general overview of the ReGen Civics, incubator process, is helping groups go through this process of setting up their new games and getting them off the ground. So here are all these land projects. I'm not going to go over them all individually. I keep trying to do that, but so I'm editing all of that attempts out to say they actually did a better job, explaining themselves what their projects are. So I'm not going to attempt to try to do that. But each one of these have set up their DAO within the DAO.hypha.earth. So for example, let's say Finca Sagrada. I want to join them and I love them. I can type in here in the search Finca, and I could find that Finca Sagrada. I can click on them and I could see up here that become a member button, right? So I could choose to become a member and I could see what they've gone through. Again, they haven't really done a whole lot because all of this is just getting started. But I could click here on the Learn More and go explore more about Finca Sagrada. And ideally, each one of the land projects is going to link a video here, and you can come and watch a video that is really simply explaining what they're up to and what's going on with them. So ideally, that's where we're getting to when the Alliance keeps maturing, is we're going to have this whole ecosystem of different land-based projects where you can show up and be like, yep, I want to join that one, or I can learn from all of these different projects, and we're going to start our own. And both of those things are going to be happening, is we're going to be having way more diversity. Each season, we're going to have 13 different projects we highlight, and we're going to be learning from their journey and what they're doing, etc. So that's really what the Alliance is about, is to continually learn, demonstrate all the different possibilities, learn from each other, and give us more and more diversity of the regenerative realities that we're able to live in. So that's what we're all about, is growing the diversity of regenerative realities. So if any of this and all of this excites you, awesome, then you can feel free to join the ReGen Civics Alliance. So that's kind of where I'll end it there. These are the different DAOs. Let's close them all out. So this is the ReGen Civics one. So same concept. If you are a land-based project, if you are an organization supporting land-based projects, and all of this excites you, then come here and click to become a member here. And then you can come down to our organization, click our documentation, and that's going to take you to this beautiful place where you can learn way more about us and everything that's going on. There's also links to all of our community spaces and the last seasons that we've run, and the tokenomics paper and all this fun stuff. So if you really want to learn more about this alliance and what's happening here, this is the place to do it.
Okay, that was a long journey. Massive gratitude if you made it this far, and props to your stamina. A few things as we close out here. First one being a minor disclaimer that it seems like a big part of this game is dealing with our traumas. Traumas being the stories that we're holding on to from the games that we're leaving behind. So it seems like that's kind of the first bit that most players, I haven't really met a single player yet that hasn't gone through some serious trauma work, and this can be very emotional and very trying. And I want to just bring to light here that even though we're playing a game, it's not all, fun. Some of this work is work, but it's all part of our evolution, working through these stories so that we don't repeat them in these new games. And there's a space for that. There's the gratitude and healing circles, which happen monthly, right after every new moon. You're all encouraged to come to these, and this is where we're working through this stuff as a community, and learning from each other, and growing together, and healing from all the wounds that were caused by these very destructive games that we were born into. Okay. The second thing I wanted to just reiterate is the reason we went through all this left brain detailed technical stuff is it's so important for us to actually understand the games that we're a part of. Because if they are going to be democratic and governed by the people, we have to at least have a basic understanding of how these games work so that we can truly have a say in how they operate and how they affect our lives. So I know a lot of this was the technical stuff of how the game operates, but it's so important for us to actually have a handle on that. And the last thing is, I don't intend to spend any money at all promoting these videos. So the only way they're going to get out there and get shared is if we share them. So if there's other players you want to play this game with and you want to invite them in, I encourage you to share these videos with them. Because otherwise they're not going to get out. And the very last thing is, whilst this video is really focused on the technical details of how the game plays, or how the game works and how we can play it, I really needed this video first before I can make all of the really fun videos that I'm really excited to make, because I can always reference back to this. And at the end of this video, I'm actually going to be sharing the very first quest, which is all about healing ourselves and healing our gut. So that's a fun quest. I'm in love with it. And hopefully you love it too. So the last thing I want to close with is that I just love you all so much. And it's been such a weird, wild journey. And thank you for giving me the space to work through so many of my own traumas and stories. Without this community holding me and holding the space for that, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I hope that's true for others. And I hope it continues to be true as this community grows and we go through this process of moving from the old stories into new stories and having a bunch of fun doing it and playing these games, because that's really, truly what this is all about. So I love you all. I'm going to go eat some food from my garden now. And I wish you all a very beautiful day and a beautiful life.